Shalom, shalom, Mishpacha Wachabarim. Once again, it's your girl 916 Sean back in the building, doing another live video for you all. I have not done or uploaded a video on this channel 916 Sean in a few months, about 3 months, right? And since since Debate Talk for You is on the summer break, we back at it again. And what I mean by we, Brother BA is going to be here as well. And then I also have Sister Yahara. Sister Yahara, she's going to be on as well, giving her input or asking questions as we go forth with this lesson, this edifying, enlightening, intriguing, thought provoking lesson. All praise be to the Most High Yahweh. So, I am 916 Sean again. I am also on Facebook as Shanti Doc, and my email is duccndodge1 at gmail.com. Again, duccndodge1 at gmail.com. All right. So, before we move any further, I want to say, Ko Tehalim Ko Kabo Wahati Feres Le Yahweh Abinu Eloheinu, that is all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, our Elohim, our Father. And while we have the video going here, the lesson going, we do have the live chat open. If you want to come in and voice your concerns, uh, questions, comments, just as long as you're tasteful and respectful and cordial and courteous um, to one another and to us as well while you're typing in your comments in the live. All right. So what I'm going to do is introduce and let the guests here formally introduce themselves. So, first up, we'll let Sister Yahara go ahead and speak. Come on in, sis. All right, sis. So, if you want to formally introduce yourself, you good? You got the mic up. You got to unmute it.
Yes,
There you
yes.
go.
Good afternoon, Sister Yahara. How's everyone doing this evening? Um, just here for edification of the body and just ready to be edified to see what we can bring out here and always open to learning. So appreciate being here, my sister Shanti, my brother BA, and let's get it in. Very exciting time.
Yeah, thanks for joining in to this conversation. You get a first hand glimpse of how me and Brother BA roll and get down.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So next up, my brother BA, aka BKA, who I like to call Hammer and Sickle. You know what I mean? You know how he put it. Brother BA, come on in, formally introduce yourself.
Greetings and all praises to the Most High God in the name of His only anointed, nobody else known as Yeshua the Christ. And we're just tapping in with everybody, and we're about to go into the Word and reason, and we pray for understanding. And this is not meant to debate. This is meant to be taught and to be edified. So we're not in the business of debating. But we are open for people to challenge the information that we bring out. We don't mind discussing it, but we're not game banging information. So we can talk about it, we can deal with it, and let's build. But at the end of the day, this information is for those who truly are seeking, and that's what it's all about. It's about edifying those who are seeking, and hope it is of substance for those who are in need. That's our concern.
Ditto. Yes, this is going to be a thought provoking, enlightening, edifying lesson. As I was putting it together, as BA was sharing his notes with me, as what the Most High allowed to be revealed to him, I was like, oh my gosh, I appreciate you so much, Yahweh. I'm forever indebted um, for the understanding and the wisdom that came out through this lesson. And of course, as BA said, anything that we bring here, it's very much substantiated, backed up with archaeological evidence, historians, and a credible research material that we've delved into uh, for the last few months for me, and then for the last couple of years. And so if there's going to be anything we bring out, we're not above correction. However, meet us where we're at. Show us some credible sources, information, scholarly articles, archaeological evidences, secular historical information, things of that nature to bring to us, and we'll go ahead and we'll be open to objectively listen to it. And whatever we bring here, we ask that you take back to the Most High yourself. Take back to the Most High Yahweh yourself this thought-provoking information. Take it back, pray, meditate, ask the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you into a sound conclusion. Right? We want to be able to 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 be genuine truth seekers, to learn how to rightly divide the word of the Most High, right? And the title of this lesson is called simply Command or Curse, Part 2. BA and I did a lesson called Command or Curse a couple years back, and we brought out a few things. We elaborated on Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3. We talked about a lot of the time where the Hebrew word for male and female was, and we talked about Adam is a male and female pair unless specified by the text, especially the Hebrew text or the biblical Greek text. We look at that as well. And there were some things that the Most High recently allowed me to come across, as well as BA, and so we want to incorporate that with a reloaded Commander Curse Part 2, and we're going to add for your edification some other aspects that we did not get to elaborate on before when we brought up Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3. And so we'll be emphasizing more. And I pray that you are open, seek the Most High, want to gain some knowledge and understanding, but most of all, the wisdom to be able to apply this in our everyday journey, right? Because coming into this faith is a walk. Walk is an action, right? It's the way you behave, it's the way you conduct yourself, and we're supposed to take these lessons and apply them to our everyday life and journey to solidify and have a closer relationship, closer personal relationship with the Most High Yahweh Elohim, right? So we'll be talking about some concepts of Adam and Eve being priests, talk about the concept a little bit of honor versus shame. And I know you're saying, well, how are we going to do this, right? So before we dive right into this thing, I want to say this, and then I'll have BA come in. I want to say this. When we go into the portion about Genesis 3:16, about what the Most High was saying to the woman, this is not about man over woman. This is not about woman over man. This is about restoring the proper balance as we see put forth in Genesis chapter 1 from the Father. I believe there's a passage in Isaiah, I believe it's chapter 49, and it says, the Most High sets out the end or the goal, GOAL, from the beginning.
It's 46.
46, Isaiah 46, excuse me for that. See, that's why I got Brother BA here. I'm probably getting that mixed up with the passage that talks about being a light to the nations. That's in Isaiah 49. All right.
And can I say
So
real quick,
Isaiah
sis?
46. Yeah, yeah, go
Isaiah
ahead.
46. So if I could say really quickly, off the top, this is going to require anybody that's listening or the message that's coming out to edify the body for them to challenge what they're used to thinking and how the concepts of how they're used to thinking, because you can't come into this with your own understanding. It's going to require you to have an open mind, because that's why you have to go back and you have to seek these things and ask the Most High, for understanding, not of our own understanding, but of His understanding. So I just wanted to say that really quickly, because a lot of people, when they're listening, they hear it, but they have their own way of processing it. So in a way, you have to abandon that concept. You have to abandon that. This walk is like basic training. You can't go in there
Right.
applying what you know, and thinking you're going to make it all the way to the end on what you know. Basic training, they break you down and build you up. So as this walk is, the Most High is breaking you down to build you up the way He needs you to, because we don't remember. We don't remember how we functioned at the beginning. So in a sense, you have to abandon everything that you know so the Most High can build you up the way He needs you to be built up. That's all I wanted to say.
Well,
Right.
good job here.
See, we are the clay and the most high is the potter. So once again, this is not about woman being over man. This is not about man being over woman. This is about balance, getting back to the original goal, the original beginning as the most high um, put here. All right. This is not about this is not about anybody trying to one up one another. This is not what this is about. All right. But BA, go ahead and say anything you want, brother, before we dive right into this thing.
I would most definitely like to say, like you were stressing earlier, this is not about one-upmanship. This is not about showmanship or any type of fanaticism or any type of, oh, I'm finna finesse the scriptures and I'm finna give you my style. We're not swinging the sword here. This is about edifying. What's, and let me just say this about all three of us here for those who are listening. All three of us, we're people, we have families, we have children we're raising up. So we don't do this for vainglory. I'm going to repeat it one more time. We're not doing this for vainglory. Everybody here, Ashanti's a married woman, and she is most definitely, and they have a family they take care of. Sister Yara right here, she's a mother. She is most definitely raising up her child. Me myself, I'm raising up my children and running my household as well. So what we're doing here, we're doing this for the love of the Most High, and on top of that, we have people who we actually are leading in our households, and we do it to edify them and for those who are willing to accept what we have to share with them. So we don't do this for play. We don't do this to be recognized. We do this because we truly love the Most High and we truly care for people. And with that, we can get right into the information.
Yep. BA, we're going to start at Genesis chapter 1. And I'm going to have you read some verses unless I tell you to skip around, right? So you can go ahead and read Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2.
All right. I'm reading from the Septuagint. Is that okay? You want me to pull out the King James?
Um, Whichever's clever for you.
I'm gonna read. I'm gonna be reading from different ones. You know me. I like to look at different ones. So for the Septuagint, it reads: In the beginning, God or Elohim made the heavens and the earth, but the earth was unsightly and unfurnished, and darkness was over the deep, and the Spirit of God moved over the water.
All right. You have anything to elaborate or bring out on that, BA? I do. I just want to give you the opportunity.
You go right ahead. You go right
All
ahead.
right. So I want to just give a brief overview here. Genesis 1, chapter 1, verses 2. And if I'm looking this way, that means I have some notes over here. So, in the ancient Near Eastern languages, right, peoples viewed creation of Yahweh as a microcosm, a community, or place that encapsulates the in a miniature form the characteristic qualities or features of something much bigger or larger. And the way the ancients view the universe and its area of activity, society, aspects of life, was that there existed three cosmic spheres. And so those three cosmic spheres are heaven, earth, and sea. And this explains the creation story as the process of bringing something to existence. That means bringing something into order, everything put in its proper place and has its function. And so the creation story is bringing something into existence, such as the temple or tabernacle on earth. And we're going to show that the garden in Eden is the temple, that is the tabernacle, that is actually the kingdom, and that is the Sabbath as a whole. Now, what I mean by order is this: in the Hebraic mindset, order does not mean person one on top is the best, person two on bottom is the next best, person three under that is the least best. No, order is about everything is put into its proper place and has its function so that things won't be in disarray, so that things won't look chaotic. And for example, if I think about my kitchen, right? If I think about my kitchen, if I think about my kitchen, I have a drawer where utensils go. You know, you have your fork, knife, and spoon, and all that good stuff, right? And so, you know, there's a tray where the forks and the knives and the spoons go. And so, when I'm talking about order, I'm talking about in that tray, there's separate compartments of where the forks would go, where the spoons would go, and where the knives would go. That's what we're talking about order. Plus, when we follow some steps, it doesn't mean one step is more important or significant than the other. No, there's steps or a process to bring things into an order. So each process is just as significant as the other. Same with our body parts. Each body part has its function, right? And they work in conjunction with each other for the common goal of the one person that encompasses it, right? So that's what we mean by order. And so the seas, they're represented by the outer court. Um, the earth is represented by the inner court, and the heavens are represented by represented by the inner chamber known as the Holy of Holies. And the cosmos, the order or the universe, right, is represented by the outer courtyard, and the garden is represented by the inner courtyard. In the middle of the sanctuary, right, that's represented by the inner chamber, the Holy of Holies, right? And so when the Most High said, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the spirit of Elohim or God moved or hovered or vibrated upon the face of the water." So the spirit is the power. That's also the teacher, and so the spirit is also water, right? Spirit is also water, and it's likened to wisdom, right? We see it's likened to wisdom if you read Proverbs chapter 18, verses 4 to 14. We're not going to read all of that, but the spirit is the embodiment or the visible form of an idea, quality, or feeling of wisdom. So the spirit is the embodiment of wisdom. BA, if you're there, could you read Isaiah chapter 44, verse 3? And let's see here.
All right, I'm back. And you said Isaiah 44, right?
Yep, Isaiah chapter 44, verse 3.
All right, we'll tap into that. Tap into the prophet. What the prophet got to say about that water. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And all right. And it reads 43 and 3.
44
Oh,
and 3.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 44 and 3. And I will pour out, I'm sorry, and I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. I will pour out my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thy offspring.
Right. So Isaiah 44:3 shows that the spirit is likened to the waters, which is also likened to wisdom. And we also see in Joel chapter 2 verse 23 that the latter rain and the former rain is water, but it's also called the moray or the teacher,
Exactly.
right? And I'm gonna have you read Proverbs chapter 8 verse 22 for me, BA.
All right, most
And
definitely.
I'll explain something here, and then if you want to add your take, I'm gonna go on that. So Proverbs chapter 8 verse 22.
All right, and it reads, "The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his ways, before his works of old."
Right. So this is the wisdom, right? So the wisdom, let me go somewhere real quick. Let's see. I'm gonna read Isaiah 48 and 16. So we're equating spirit is the water, and it's also likened to wisdom, right? So this is Isaiah 48 verse 16 in the KJV. It says, "Come ye near unto me, hear ye this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. From the time that it was, there am I, and now the Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, and his spirit hath sent me." All right. So Proverbs 8 and 22. Read that again for me, BA, please.
Most deaf. And it reads, "The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his ways, before his works of old."
Right. So this this spirit, this water, this wisdom was there in the beginning. It's actually the co-creator. So in Proverbs 8, when it says Yahweh possessed me, that word possessed does not mean created, like shape, form, or cut. It doesn't mean that something that was just there, something that was not there, and then the Most High had to bring things together to create it or formulate it. No, it means to get or obtain and then bring it forth. So pretty much when you already have something with you, you bring it forth when you need it, right? That's what the concept of possess means in that. And we know that the spirit is the water that gives life, right? So that's John 6 chapter 63. It says the spirit quickeneth, right? And we see in Isaiah 44:3, we see that water is that giving life. So quickeneth is give life. So if the spirit gives life and the water gives life, they're equated, and that wisdom is that as well. All right. Anything you want to elaborate on, BA, before we
Yeah, I want to
mhm.
read Proverbs chapter 8 and the Septuagint. Check this
Mm,
out. Let's tap in. The Lord made me the beginning of his ways, for his works. The Septuagint most definitely be going to work.
right.
Wow, I like
It's
that. I
it's
like that.
what it's what you call, Sister Yahara, the counterpart, right?
Absolutely, the counterpart.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And I got another one. I just
Uh-oh.
came up with another one actually. Counterpart or a representative. Mm,
Hmm.
Right,
representative. hmm
right,
Because if you have a body, you have to bring forth that representative. That was always with you to begin with. So, yep, absolutely.
all right. So, um, I said the cosmos, when the Most High was using the spirit, that brought forth creation, right? So it says the earth was formless. There was no order. Nothing was in its proper place to have a function. And so to create, you have to have a moving, you have to have a vibration going on to create this life, right? So let's see here. The cosmos, it's the what you call the ordered universe. And so Yahweh in Genesis, actually chapters 1 all the way down to pretty much where the Most High creates man, that's pretty much Yahweh's sacred space in creation as the temple, right? So just to elaborate, the sea, right? What did we say the sea was? The sea is the outer court, the earth is the inner court, and the heavens are the inner chamber, the holy of holies. Right. So the sea is symbolizes instability, um, and it's outside of the boundary of the inner courtyard of heaven and earth. It's where the beasts dwell, right? And we know about the beast in Daniel. They represent these sovereigns or kings of these nations, right? And what do these beasts do? When they dwell in the sea of instability, they bring destruction on the earth in the form of flood and raging waters and stuff like that. So um, it's a sign of rebellion to Yahweh, right? So the earth or the dry ground, it symbolizes the house or where the temple is built, where the tabernacle is built, the garden, right? And heaven or the inner chamber, the holy of holies, is where Yahweh resides, right? Is where that ark is. It's where that ark is, the ark of the covenant. He said, I will meet with you between the cherubim, because that's where Yahweh wants to reside. That's where our hearts and our minds are, right? And to give some verses about the Most High meeting with us between the cherubim, I'm gonna read a verse, and then I'm gonna have BA read a verse. um, BA, while I'm reading this, can you get Isaiah chapter 37, verse 16? So I'm going to read 2 Kings 19 and 15. And this is a verse that correlates to what I'm saying here with the inner chamber or heaven, represents where Yahweh resides. So 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 15 says, and Hezekiah prayed before the Lord Yahweh and said, O Yahweh, O Yahweh Elohim of Israel, which dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. Thou hast made heaven and earth. Right? So the Most High is this invisible force or being, uh, and actually the ark is the ark is the where the Most High sits, where the Most High dwells, and that's his throne seat. Right? That's his throne seat. BA, you have Isaiah chapter 37, verse 16.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the Septuagint,
Okay.
and it reads, "O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, who sittest upon the cherubs, thou alone art the God of every kingdom of the world. Thou hast made heaven and earth."
Right? So that's the inner chamber. That's where Yahweh resides, in our hearts and our minds. And that's where Yahweh wants to meet us at. That's where Yahweh sits, dwells, because it's a throne seat. Sits on the cherub, right? Between the cherubim. Right. It's an invisible being. Right. All right. Anything you want to elaborate on, BA? Because I'm gonna have you read Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, and then move on.
No, we
But
keep going. We can keep going. Smooth transition.
keep going. All right.
Do a movie.
So Genesis chapter 1. Uh, so verse 3 and 4. I'm not gonna have BA read, but this is where the Most High is bringing light forward, right? And I'm gonna have BA read verse 5 of Genesis chapter 1.
All right, let me get to him. All right. You said chapter one. I'm sorry, I went to chapter 5. My apologies.
No problem.
All right. And it reads, I'm reading from the Septuagint. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was even I'm sorry, let me read that again. And
Mm-hmm.
God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day.
All right. So the first day. Yeah. So in the Hebrew here, it says Yom Ehad, day one. Yom Ehad, right? Yom Ehad is day one or Ehad. That represents the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven. It encompassed all the days together, including the seventh day. We're gonna show that, right? Um, So Genesis chapter 1, verses 3 to 31, the rest of the chapter, right? Um, going into this chapter 2, the first 4 verses, it shows this because especially in Genesis chapter 2 and 4, the word yom is single, not plural, because it's yom instead of yamin. If it was days, it would be yamin. So real quick, BA, read Genesis 2 and 4, and we're gonna skip back to Genesis 1, but read Genesis 2 and 4 real quick. I want to show the people something.
Genesis chapter 2, we go pick it up at verse 4.
Hmm.
This is the book of the generations of heaven and earth, when they were made in the day in which the Lord God made the heaven and the earth.
All right. So in the day, not days, in the day.
Day.
And I know, right. And I know it says day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and then the seventh he rested. So day 7 is a whole day. It's those separated out days that come back together as one unit, as a chad unit, because that means compound in unity. Like you know how I have one pack of pins, right? That's Yom Ehad.
It's
All
not.
right. Yeah.
And you can utilize me too, sis, because I'm like I know this is y'all baby. Y'all been doing
Oh,
this, but
come on
I would love
in.
to chop up some. I would love to chop up some scripture with y'all. I'm ready. I got my sword right here too.
Come on in. If you
All
got something
right.
else to elaborate, with with
Oh,
with,
this is
with Best
good.
Vibrating, come on in.
This is beautiful right here. But I'm here to utilize this vessel definitely, because I can read up some scripture too with y'all.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not gonna let you carry the load by yourself, brother BA.
What's that?
Yeah. All right. All right. So, um, let's do this. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, BA.
Here we go. All right. So most definitely, from here on out, we're asking as you listen that you actually thoroughly listen and pay attention to how we're going to go into this. All right. Now I'm reading from the Septuagint, and I'll probably go back into the King James as well to kind of show the differences, or just to show. I like to look at different texts. Verse 26, Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. And God said, "Let us make man according to our image and likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea." I'm going to read that one more time. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the flying creatures of heaven, and over the cattle in all the earth, and over all the reptiles that creep upon the earth. Read 27. Most deaf. And God made man according to the image of God. He made him male and female. He made them.
Verse 28.
In verse 28. Now here we go. And Elohim or God or Jehovah or whichever you prefer to call him, or Yahweh or Yahuwah, right? And God blessed them, saying, "Increase and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion." Dominion, right? Over the fish of the seas, flying creatures of heaven, and all the cattle, and all the earth, and all the reptiles that creep upon the earth.
Now, BA, since you got that Septuagint, you're gonna like this. Don't you know that there's a differentiation between talking about Adam as the male or talking about Adam as the female pair? So if you go into Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "Let us make man." That is the Hebrew word Adam. However, in the
Exactly.
Septuagint, it would say anthropos.
Lopos. which
Anthropos
consists of
of
means human being,
human
which
being,
consists of what?
male and female.
Two.
It's a pair.
You see that? We're not adding or
Mm,
taking away. We are simply, and we're going to take our time with this because I'm noticing no matter how many times that Ashanti, myself, and various other individuals who like to actually read this, we're having to repeat this over and over and over and over. And everybody's a teacher. But for some reason, when it comes to this, oh, it don't mean that. But keep going, sis, if you would like to.
before I elaborate, I want to have Sister Yahara pull out a couple of verses that emphasize what you just said, and I'm gonna have her read it if we could. So Genesis chapter 5, read verse 1 and 2. Genesis chapter 5, verse 1 and 2.
All right, here we go. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam.
He called what?
Their name Adam, in the day when they were created. Mm,
Right, right
mm.
there.
Isn't that plural? That's plural, right?
Of course it is, because
Mm,
Paul taught Torah.
mm.
Yeah, so
Okay.
now we can go back. We can go back to Genesis 1 unless you want to say something real quick, sis.
That's as plain as day. As
Plain
plain
as
as
day.
day.
Right. So the Most High says Adam, anthropos, human being, mankind, is male and female pair, and them, are to have dominion. Now, dominion, we know that's like royalty language. That's kingdom language, right? And it says Adam, the female and male pair, are to have dominion over the fish of the air, the fish of the sea, the bird of the air, right? The cattle or the living beasts on the earth, and the creeping things that creep upon the earth. It did not say have dominion over each other. It did not say male have dominion over female. It did not say female have dominion over male.
And and before you go, I just want to add, and when sis is done making her point, we have lexicons. And we're going to look at this word subdue and dominion. But it's key what sis just said. And I pray that we are most definitely paying attention. There's nowhere in the text where a commandment was given that the human beings, which consist of two, are to have authority over each other. There's nothing here. This is a reason why a lot of individuals don't like dealing with us. For this reason. Because we're actually reading here and we're seeing, and then we were going back into Greek and the Hebrew, and we see this. So don't call us crazy for seeing what the text says. That's why we're going slow. But it also says to have subdue and have dominion over what? The natural resources. That's simple. Keep going, sis.
All right. So I wanted to say this. Adam, male and female, they were born from untouched or virgin spirit, which is water, and uh, from virgin or untouched earth. So Adam came from the ground, Adamah, right? And the earth or the ground was untouched, right? So it's virgin. And then the spirit, it was there and brought forth, so untouched, virgin. Um, to elaborate on that, read Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19, BA, and then I'm going to give some other notes here. So Proverbs 3:19. to substantiate the claim I'm making that the text says.
You saying 3:19, right?
Yep.
The Lord or Yahweh by wisdom hath found the earth. By understanding hath he established the heavens.
That's right.
Simple.
Simple. So, let's see here. Let's see where I want BA to go back to. All right. So, verse 25 of Genesis chapter 1. I want to read this real quick and say some things. So, Yahweh made the beast of the earth after its kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Yahweh saw that it was good, or Elohim saw that it was good. And then verse 31, it says, and Yahweh saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. I want to say this. You notice that beast and Adam are both created on the sixth day, which has a connection. Like humans and animals were both classified as mammals. We're warm-blooded creatures, right? And we have hair and skin, right? So this is why we as humans also have this like animal like nature, and we do have an animal like nature, like the serpent, and we're going to see some things there. So um, let's see. Read for me, BA, Genesis chapter 1 verse 29 to 30.
And it reads, and Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is fruit of a yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every herb for meat, and it was so.
All right. So I know that people want to talk about Genesis 1:29 promotes of veganism. However, I don't believe that's so. Um, Genesis 1:29 to 30, Adam, male and the female pair, were given commandments. Um, they're elaborated on in Genesis chapter 2, verses 7 to 9, and then 15 to 17. We'll get to that. And they were given commandments as to what they could and could not eat, as far as herbs and trees, right? So eat, eat, um, take and eat is also the word take is likened to the word marriage, consume, right? If you go back into the word for take, we'll go to Genesis 2 when we get there, and then eat. Pretty much, you're sealing the deal or you're consummating. All right. So when you take betrothed and then eat, you're consummating. So, what is Shanti saying? I'm saying that from the text, I see that the trees are likened to people, and the herbs are also likened to people. So intake. We're supposed to intake anything that lines up and agrees with Yahweh, right? So the trees are likened to people. A lot of times the trees are likened to leaders, and we'll read some things on that in a hot moment. But this is where we're gonna go more in detail as we go through the video to talk about this forbidden fruit that Adam, the male and female pair, ate. We're gonna talk about this forbidden fruit. This blew my mind, and what the Most High has allowed to be revealed to me and others. who got this. I'm just so thankful and grateful. Like I'm forever indebted, right? So the trees are likened to people. We're gonna see that this has nothing to do with veganism or eating just a plant-based diet, right? So let's do this. Let's go ahead and do this before we elaborate on Genesis 2 and Genesis 3 on those verses. BA,
Yeah.
pull up Isaiah chapter 40, verse 6, real quick. We're going to show something about the herbs.
And just to stress to everybody, we're not
Hmm.
speaking against veganism,
Correct.
because people will probably take that and run with it and say, "Oh, Bia and Ashanti saying that we ain't supposed to be vegans." And no, we're not saying that. We're just saying, and there's nothing wrong with veganism. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you prefer, that's what you prefer. We ain't speaking against that.
Right.
So we're just saying that here, in particular, where people like to run and promote it, we don't see that there. That's all we're saying. That's all we're
Hmm.
saying.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah,
There's a
because
deeper
yeah,
concept. There's a deeper
it's
concept to be
exactly.
to see. There's something deeper to see than just surface level. You can't approach this thing with a surface level understanding. You have to open up your mind and come in here with a clean slate and look beyond what it says. We're not reading into it. We're not adding to it. We're reading what exactly what it says. But if we have the understanding that if people are liking on the trees, then you can see the text for what it is.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Isaiah 40 and verse 6 from the King James. The voice said, "Cry," and he said, "What shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all the godliness thereof as the flower of the field."
Right. So grass is likened to herb, H2682 in the Hebrew. It's the word hatsir, grass, leek, green, grass, leek, green grass, herbage. Um, Figuratively perishing quickly, right? So it's something that has greenness, something that has a life. So when it says grass, pretty much it's the herb, right? Also, let me see. Let me read Psalms 90 and 5. Psalms 90 and 5. All right. It says, "Thou carriest them away as with a flood. They are as a sleep in the morning. They are like grass which groweth up." And that word grass, 2682, pretty much, right? Grass, leek, green grass, herbage, um, from the greenness of a courtyard, right? Greenness of a courtyard? Greenness of a courtyard. Put a pin in that. Greenness of a courtyard, right? All right. Let's see here. All right. So this is the part where it gets a little deep. Anything you want to elaborate on, BA, before I move on? I'm going to go into elaborate on who Adam, uh, the male and female pair, actually were, who I'm likening them to, as I see in the text. Anything you want to elaborate on before I move forward?
No, go right ahead, sis, and do your thing. It's all good.
I
Okay.
do have a
Let's
question real
see
quick
something
though.
here.
Isn't
Yep.
beasts of the field and fowls of the air likened unto people as well?
You said the beast likened to people as well.
The beasts and the fowls of the air, are they not likened unto people as well?
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you read the book of Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
I know BA's more versed in Daniel. You know, the beasts represent the sovereigns of the nations who definitely were up against Israel. You know, when we went into the different captivities.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have what you have:
And
Assyria, you have
power
Babylon,
structure.
you have
Yeah,
Persia, then you have Greece and Rome.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Um,
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Let's do this before I read something else. Let's go to Genesis 2, verses 7 to 9. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go to Genesis 2, verses 7 to 9.
All right, 2 7 through 9.
Yeah. And while you're getting that, I just want to say, I understand that there's people who have the understanding that Genesis chapter 1 is separate from chapter 2, and that it's not a connected narrative. I'm under the understanding from reading the biblical grammar and how the text of the Bible flows. It's written in like poetical prose, and sometimes the result is given before the actual event that caused the result. So I believe that Genesis chapter 2 is an elaboration on Genesis chapter 1. It shows to me more intricate detail of the creation of the garden, which is the temple, the tabernacle, the kingdom. Right.
Exactly. Like the elder in Buffalo says, Judah. He says Genesis chapter 1 is the outer, and Genesis chapter 2 is more so of the inner. We're going back in and we're getting a detailed view of what happened in Genesis chapter 1.
Right.
That's how the elder and the elders of Buffalo explain. The Knesset of Yeshua, much love to those brothers. I love them to death. So verse 7, right?
Yeah, just read verses 7 to 9 real quick. We're going to come back to these and elaborate on them just a little more.
All
But
right.
they went with what I was saying in Genesis 29 and 30, how they're connected.
Exactly. And God formed a man of the dust of the earth and breathed upon his face the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. Anthropos. You know what that means. If you don't believe me, look it up. Right? In your King James, the Hebrew word will be Adam, I believe. Look it
Adam.
up. Get that concordance and use it. Right? 8. And God planted a garden eastward in Edom and placed there the man, Anthropos, right? Whom he had formed. And God made to spring up also out of the earth every tree beautiful to the eye and good for food, and the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of learning the knowledge of good and evil. That's so
Right.
cool, man.
Right. So this is the connection of Genesis chapter 2 verses 7 to 9 to Genesis chapter 1 verses 29 to 30. And we're going to see, like I said, how these trees are likened to people and especially leaders. We're going to see that, right? So we're going to get into all this forbidden fruit, what the fruit was, why it was forbidden. We're going to get into that. Um, Genesis 2 and 15 through 17. BA, read that real quick, please.
15 through
Yes,
17,
correct.
and it reads, and the Lord God took the Anthropos, or the man, or the human being, whom he, I'm sorry, the man whom he had formed, and placed him in the garden of delight to cultivate and to keep it. Verse 16. And the Lord God gave a charge to Adam, saying, of every tree which is in the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, good and evil, of it ye shall not, but in whatsoever day ye eat of it, ye shall surely die.
Um, okay. So this was the part where it gets interesting here. Okay. Father help me. Adam, the male and female pair. Since the most highest creation is a kingdom, since it's a tabernacle, since it's a temple where a king is going to reside and dwell and rule and reign, then what does a king have? priest. So Adam, the male and female, were priest. Priest, right?
All right. All right.
Go ahead. What you go? You got a question? Go ahead.
No, I'm just like, oh, I'm following, and I'm just like, okay, yes, come on, bring it out.
Yeah, you want
I'm
me to bring
definitely
it
in
out?
agreement.
Bring
Hey,
him
I'm
out.
in
Bring him
agreement.
out. Bring him out. Bring him out. Yeah.
you know, I have to play the part of where are the scriptures? Can you show me that? Thus saith the Lord.
Hey, we're gonna show something right here. This is an awesome connection. So when Brother BA read Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, he said Adam, the male and female pair, the anthropos, the human being, right, was put into the garden. In the KJV, it says dress and keep it. Okay, so the Hebrew word, let's look at this. The Hebrew words for dress and keep, they are abad and shamar. Abad means to serve, and shamar means to keep or guard, right? Abad, serve, and shamar, keep or guard, right? This is the instructions for the priest. Watch this. Shamar, abad and shamar, dress and keep, serve and keep or guard. So I'm going to have BA read Numbers chapter 3, verses 7 to 8. Watch this. BA, while you're getting while you're getting Numbers chapter 3, I want to say shalom to everyone in the chat. Brother Lynn Dog, Sister Katrina, Sister Rhonda Moore. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. I hope you are edified. I hope you are enlightened. And I hope you enjoy this lesson. Right? All praise be to the Most High for you joining in. And hope you're enjoying your day so far and enjoying and learning from this lesson.
Numbers chapter 3
Yep.
and where again?
Verses 7 and 8.
7 and 8. All right, check this out. And shall keep his charges. That's for the Septuagint, right?
Well, yeah.
And
Let
shall,
me make sure you reading. Yep. Okay.
yeah. So
Actually, start from verse 6. Actually, start from verse 5. Start from
all
verse
right.
5. Just for a little bit of context. Yeah. Go ahead.
And the Lord spoke, or Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, take the tribe of Levi, and thou shalt set them before Aaron the priest, and they shall minister to him, and shall keep his charges, and the charges of the children of Israel before the tabernacle of witness, to do the works of the tabernacle. These are the functions of a priest.
The functions of a priest. The words used for function of a priest.
But those who promote dogma, well, only Levi is supposed to be the priest.
This is why in Exodus 19, the Father said you're supposed to be a kingdom of what?
Priests? What do priests do? Serve. Now hold on. Now check this out. Can we read Exodus 19 real quick? I want to bring something to
By all means. Hey, BA done turned up. Go ahead.
Right? I'm going to read for the King James for them, right? Because I've heard the arguments, right? But I want to go to Exodus 19, right? And where is that? Verse 5. Let's start at verse 4. And ye seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice, indeed to keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. Verse 6, here we go. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. Now, at this point, Levi wasn't even set up as a priest yet.
Correct.
Why was Levi set up as a priest? Why? Go back to Exodus 32, and Most High willing, he'll reveal that to you as you read it. There's a reason why Levi was given the priesthood. They earned it that day or that night, however you want to look at that. But go ahead, sis. But that does not negate Israel as the nation being a priest.
Right, because Israel is a nation first and foremost. First and foremost, they are human beings.
Hold on. Are we reading about human beings in the garden? Thus saith the Lord.
Right. Adam, which is a male and female pair, which are human beings, are the first priests. Because if the Most High said all the earth is mine, remember I said the earth is the symbolism of the garden. The garden is the temple. Right? And so in Numbers chapter 3, verses 7 to 8, it pretty much says of the priests when they're doing the service, that's the word abad for serve, right? And then in verse 8 of Numbers chapter 3, it says they are to abodat, abodat hamishkan, serve the mishkan. They are also supposed to what? Keep, and they shall keep all of the instruments of the tabernacle. Keep is shamar, language for priest, right? I want to also have you BA read Numbers chapter 8 verses 25 to 26. We're seeing some other connections that serve and keep or guard, or abad and shamar are vernacular for priest.
8 and what verse again? You said 25?
Numbers 8 verses 25 and 26.
Most deaf from the King James.
Mm-hmm.
And from the age of 50 years, they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more, but shall minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of the congregation to keep the charge, and shall do no service. Thus shalt thou do unto the Levites touching their charge.
All right. Sorry, I'm typing over here in the chat, but I hear you. I want to say shalom to Eliah Israel. Thank you for saying this is a great lesson and that you're getting this understanding. Praise be to the Most High. Sister Denise Harris, you said you cooking, right? But you listening. That's what's up. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. You said they ain't ready, huh? Well, we got to get them ready so they can stay ready. All praise to the Most High, right? So BA read Numbers 8 verses 25 to 26. So we see here that it says the priest, right? They're supposed to serve abodah. Serve abodah. That's verse 25, right? And the word lishmor. Lishmor is the root shamar, to keep or guard. The charge, the mishpat. Excuse me, the guard the charge. That's lishmor, mishmeret. That's the same root word shamar for no, it's not. That's a different word. Okay. So you have shamar, which is to keep, and then you have keep the charge of the service. Abodah, abad, serve. So you're supposed to serve and keep. Abad and shamar, serve and guard. And so Adam, the male and female pair, the human being, were told to what? Dress and keep, which is serve and guard. All right. Now, I know this is going to sound strange to some people, but I made the connection that the reference in Ezekiel 28, we were always told or shown that it was Hashatan, or the adversary, talked about in that passage when it talked about the king of Tyre. I'm also seeing that the connection is likened to Adam, the male and female pair of the human being as well, that Ezekiel 28 is referencing as well. Because, and I'm not gonna have BA read it, but go back and read it. Um, if you go to Ezekiel 28, I think it starts at verse 9. Uh, it lists in the KJV what's known for what's rendered from the Masoretic text. It gives 9 of the stones that are in the priest's breastplate that's talked about in Exodus 28. However, when you go to the Septuagint, right, when you go to the Septuagint and read the same passage in Ezekiel 28, you see that there are a total of 12 stones being mentioned that are in the breastplate of the priest that's talked about in in Exodus 28. And also, Brother BA and I last night, well, Brother BA brought it up. He was like, wait, those are the same 12 stones that the temple that we see in Revelations is made of. Go ahead, BA. Is that you?
Yeah. No, I
Go
was
ahead.
just saying, yeah, just we see the connections here from the law, Ezekiel, the prophets, in the book of Revelation.
Because Isaiah 46 said what? The Most
In
High.
Isaiah 49, it says,
Is it 46 or
oh, I'm sorry,
49?
46, 46. I'm sorry. 9 and 10, and it says, I have established the end. The Hebrew word for end is a kareth, the goal, the
Gold.
mark. I have set the goal from the beginning. So what is the goal? Humanity, the
Come on.
human being, to be the priest, to serve. But check this out. Go to Psalms chapter 8. It's an action. The Spirit manifests through action. Psalms chapter 8. And I want to look at this. We're going to pick it up at verse 4. What is man, that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that thou visit him? It's a question. But check this out. Verse 5. For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with the glory and honor. Verse 6. Thou hast made him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet.
Dominion.
Dominion.
Mashal means rule.
To rule. Just hold on. Just like it said in Genesis chapter 1, to subdue.
Right.
And to have dominion.
Right.
Over the natural resources and over all the animals.
Right. But not male over female and not female over male.
Nowhere.
That's not what it said.
Absolutely. Wow.
So, on the 7th day, Yahweh rested, which meant the king, right? The king, who's the king? Yahweh. Over the city. So he rested over the city, or in the city, or the place, the temple, the tabernacle, which was now enthroned by him. He's enthroned where? On the ark, on the cherubim, right? Where he wants to meet you at. That's the throne. And then, so he's sitting on the throne, and that's the orderly structure of the temple, and the operations of it has begun. So us as the priests, guess what? He's commanding us what to eat and what not to eat. Not necessarily just food, but it's something a little more deeper, and we're going to go into that just a little bit, right? And to give us our function as priests, right? So that the Most High can rest or dwell or sit and be king and reign. Because the earth.
So what?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what do priests do?
Mm-hmm.
Again, they serve.
Right.
They serve. We have to really stress this.
Mm-hmm.
So is it okay that we go to the master teacher? to show the connections, how he lines up with all this as well.
Right.
Why do you think the apostle says that Christ or Yeshua or Jesus, I'm not scared to say that name, that Jesus is what? The second who, sis?
Adam.
Which means what, sis?
Male and female pair.
Human being.
Human being.
Uh-oh. Now we're looking at this spiritually here. We're not saying just understand the human nature of Christ.
Right.
He established he helped bring order into what the Most High had established from the beginning.
Right.
So can we turn to Mark chapter 10?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Mark chapter 10.
Hey, before you go to while you're going to Mark chapter 10, I want to say this real quick. Keep going there, BA. But mashal. Mashal is the word for dominion, and it means rule, to have dominion, to reign, right? That is also the root word of mishle. Mishle is the Hebrew word for Proverbs. So you know the book of Proverbs is like a mini Torah, the book of instructions, teachings, rule. All right, that's all I wanted to add. Go ahead.
And we're going to go to Mark chapter 10. And we're going to show Christ, the master teacher, the Nazarene, the image of Elohim. The image, yes, I said it, and I'm not scared to say it. It is what it is. You know where I stand.
And we're not saying Jesus or Yeshua is fully human. We're saying he's divine, but wrapped up in human flesh when he came to the earth. Because in order to see the Most High in his full and complete glory, you cannot be human. So Yeshua, Jesus, had divinity. Okay, go ahead, BA.
But how did he have divinity? You mentioned that V word earlier.
Version. He was created. Excuse me. He was brought forth from spirit and came through a virgin, Mary. All right, go ahead.
Like you said earlier, the earth was untouched. Just use your imagination, people.
Right. So human beings, right?
Yeah.
We came from virgin spirit. We came from virgin earth. So we, as human being, came through virgin, something untouched. And so the second Adam, as Paul talks about in Romans 5, had to come through. This is why we believe Yeshua had to come through virgin. All right. BA, you still there? All right. Yahara, still there?
Present.
Okay. So Brother BA's connection has been lost.
Uh, this is very interesting. Very interesting indeed. To see
It's
all this
interesting,
come
huh?
out and be connected. Yeah. Oh, it's. Mm, you have to come in here with a clear mind. You definitely
Hallelujah.
have to, because it's shaking. It's shaking people's individual concepts of what they believe they were taught before. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Oh, he might have had a call or something. Or he'll be back.
Okay, okay.
Let's
While
see.
BA is coming back into the connection, I do want to say, let's see. Okay, I shouted everybody out. And I know this is going to be long because we're adding our commentary and speaking a lot of verses and making a lot of connection. And I know sometimes long videos don't necessarily keep people's attention span. So hopefully Yahweh willing, I can, separate this video out in a few different parts. Maybe, maybe a video that lasts 45 minutes here, another video that lasts 45 minutes there. But and then when you're having videos going live, you have technical difficulties. And Brother BA, we waiting for him to come back in and share. I just don't want to go further, without Brother BA. You know what I mean? That's not fair. That's not fair to my brother. While we waiting on our Brother BA, does anybody in the chat have any questions or concerns, or are you just enjoying the lesson and being edified, and are you enlightened to some things you may not have seen that will assist you in your walk? You know, we can go ahead and converse in the chat while we're waiting on Brother BA to come back in the live here, because BA got turned up.
All the
Oh,
way as usual, though. I mean, but that's
yeah,
that's
this this
that's a
this is
fire
him
right there.
calling
It's a
me
fire.
now. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, Brother BA. He's trying to get back in. Uh, the debate talk for you. Oh yeah, we know who that is. That's either or. That's either the boy Anon or either Sal Showtime. So keep doing the work. Tune in, sharing the video. Yeah, no doubt. Um, man, this how you bring in the fourth, huh? Yeah, we take an opportunity like this on our day off. On our day off. Hopefully, BA could get back in. Um, if he can't, then I'll continue the lesson. You said it's fire, Aliyah Israel. That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, we
Hey, sis, I
appreciate.
got a. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I got a question. I was coming up with some interesting um thoughts last night when it came to scripture, and some of them were like Proverbs, like um not Proverbs. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Genesis 2 and 7. Let me know if I'm jumping ahead of what you're teaching, but Genesis 2 and 7. Um, the breath of life, when they're talking about the breath of life. So I noticed that when you were how in the beginning when you were reading about the how Yah said, let there be light and everything like that. I'm not saying not to disregard that, but when Yah said, let there be light. So in Genesis, what I was going through last night and writing down and taking some notes in Genesis 2, trying to get there really quickly. Genesis 2 and 7. And Yahuwah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Um, my question to you, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, playing mom over here, but if can I get your opinion on, is it safe to say, because this is my understanding or what I might have pulled from it, and he formed man from the dust of the ground. So him forming man from the dust of the ground and breathing into him. When you breathe life, you speak life. Um, is it safe to say that he was formed but not alive?
At this point, you have a thought in your mind. So the thought comes in your mind, and then you formulate it, then you bring it to existence. So the
Mm-hmm.
bringing it to existence is that spark of life. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, that animator. So for your car. For your car to drive, you have to have a spark or igniter to get that engine going, to give it the life so that it can drive. So pretty much the breath of life that the Most High breathed, that was that spark or that animator that, said, let there be light, boom. And that gives it the energy or the charge to wake it up and be alive and animate and go. So that's what I would say.
Okay, and I asked that because what led me to ask that is because um, I was thinking the same concept when it came to um, he breathed life into him, or he gave him, and he became a living soul.
Yeah, that's the spark, the animator.
Hmm.
Yep, that
Hmm.
breathing, that's that
Am
spark,
I
that's the animator. Yeah.
gotcha? Gotcha. So, am I wrong to um, think of the same concept of when man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. He
I
has
would.
found his other half or his
He's found his
spark.
counterpart. Well, he already has a spark because he's a single whole individual coming. So he's already
Hmm.
living and breathing. You know, so finding a woman doesn't cause him to breathe or be animated. He's already breathing and animated. So I wouldn't make that connection to say when a man finds a good thing, he finds what makes him alive.
Okay.
But we're gonna get into some
Awesome.
things. Yeah, we're gonna get into some things when it comes to Genesis 2 and 7, and then what that forbidden fruit was and its aspect as it relates to life. We're gonna bring something up. I'm not gonna say, oh, okay, well, the man can't breathe and live without this woman. No, he's already breathing and living because when he's born, he breathing and living. He has life.
Hmm.
You know,
And
so
we got to
Alrighty,
remember
perfect.
too, when this air was blown into the lungs of man, we still have it still have the human being, which consists of who? How many?
too, a
Two.
male and female pair.
Hmm.
So we got to remember that. Um, but I want to get to Mark chapter 10. You guys want me to, is if I get there, or you guys still want to continue to go ahead and finish up, or I don't want to interrupt if I was. I don't want
Oh
to.
no,
Oh
we
no,
was
we're done.
feeling in
Oh,
the
we're
air
done.
with Ray.
I was just asking a side question. Yeah, I was just asking a side question for myself. We're
Okay,
good. I'm ready.
okay. But Mark chapter 10, and after that, we're going to go to Matthew chapter 18 as well. And what we're going to do, I'm going to pick it up at verse Mark chapter 10, and we're going to pick it up at verse. Uh, let's start back for some context. Verse 41, no, verse 42. I'll just say that. Verse 42. But Christ or Jesus called them to him and said unto them, Ye know that they which are account to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. But here we go. Check this out. 43. But so shall it not be among you. He's talking to the disciples, and he's also talking to Israel, right? But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister. What does minister mean? To serve. 14. And whosoever of you will be your chief shall be servant of all. Verse 45. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many.
Minister is to serve, right?
Serve.
Right.
Let's go to Matthew chapter 18. When you are a priest, it's not to boast over as if you just arrived and you have great authority. No, that's not how the Most High set it up. No. Matthew chapter 18, verse 1. At the same time came the disciples unto Christ, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? The greatest. What? And Jesus called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. It's not about one-upmanship and who got the best doctrine and who present the best information and who's this. No, he said you have to be converted. You have to be changed. So when you are when Israel came out of Exodus and they made the covenant in chapter 19, what happened prior to that? The baptism. What happened after the baptism? They had to be changed. That's why he said, you know what I've done to the Egyptians. And you are to be my people. You represent me. So you're going to serve me. And how you're going to do that? How you show that? By serving the nations. Being ministers and being a light and bringing them back to me. Is that not the good news? Anybody? Did not Abraham hear the good news? The gospel?
That's right.
All right.
I just had to say that. That's all.
See, that went along with especially Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 28. When the Most High made human being, he made the human being to be the Most High's image on the earth, to create on the earth as the Most High in heavenly hosts create in heaven, right? And so you're given dominion as male and female pair, as Adam, as human being. You're given dominion to rule over the fish, the birds, the beasts, the animals, and the creeping things, not each other. And Yeshua stressed this, as BA read in Mark chapter 10. You're not supposed to want to lord over people because you're supposed to serve.
Exactly.
The Most High gave us gifts to function and to serve one another so we can what? Establish and keep the kingdom built, keep the temple built, keep the garden built and cultivated.
Now, check this out, sis. We're created in the image of Elohim,
Right?
right? What did he do first? Did he not serve first?
He served first. That's
And
what
how did
First
he
John.
do that? By creating the heavens and the earth.
Come on now.
By creating all the natural resources, the animals, water, air, fire. All. So now, guess what? In return, that man has to do. Since I have provided and given you things, give it right back to me. Serve me now.
Hallelujah. That's one of the
And
mandates, right? Do unto others as you want others to do unto you.
why did he say be fruitful and multiply?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that we look at that from a carnal perspective?
Mm.
This is a spiritual being, the force that cannot be reckoned with, unseen, out of our beyond our imagination, existence before existence itself, telling them to serve one another, not rule. When it comes to the male and the female, rule by each other's side. Play your part, but don't bump heads and try to lord over each other. That was not commanded. Go ahead, sis.
No doubt. And we're gonna show that wasn't commanded. We're gonna get to Genesis 3:16. Don't worry. Don't worry. All right. Let's go into Genesis chapter 2. Because we've already brought out a little bit with verses 7 to 9, and then verses 15 to 17. And we're gonna elaborate on the trees like being likened to people, especially leaders, right? We're gonna get to that. But before I do, let's just read a couple of things here. Let's read Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. Actually, you know what? No. Before you read Genesis chapter 2 verse 18, let's see here. Um, so when BA read Genesis chapter 2 verses 7 to 9, we seen that connection to Genesis 1 29 and 30, where the Adam, the male and female pair, the human being, they were commanded on what to eat and not to eat. So right here, that answers the question. Well, where was Eve told to eat? Only the man was told to eat. Only the male. Nah, she was right there the whole time because she is Adam, the human being, right? So she was already commanded on what to eat and what not to eat. And if you go back into Commander Curse Part 1, we looked at the word nekabah, which meant female, right? The word female was likened to a whole, HOLE, a whole. And the male, the Sakar, was looked at as something to mark or remember, right? So I'm going to show something, and you guys are going to see the sexual connotation in it, but sometimes people are visual learners, and sometimes I got to give pictures. But the female, right? When the male, say like a male is to remember or put a mark in something, right? The male has that reproductive organ, which is to give, right? When you put a pin in something, you remember, right? You mark it, right? And so, say for example, if you put a pin in something, you mark it, creates a hole, right? And so the male is like that Zakar, that pin to remember, and then the female is that hole, that HOLE, right? And so when you got a hole, let's just do this. When you got a hole, you have something surrounded on all sides. You have an encompassing, right? And that encompassing is a perimeter or a boundary. So that boundary, that female, right? She is actually the boundary keeper. And when you have a boundary around something like a fence, say for example around the house, before people get to your house, what do they have to go through first? The boundary. And so in Commander Curse Part 1, we showed why the serpent went to the woman first. Because she is the female, she's that boundary. She has to go through the boundary first to get to what's inside the male. All right? So she was already commanded as the human being of what to eat and what not to eat. Right? Let's see. So Genesis 2 is the elaboration of the creation of the plants and also the human being, correct? And so verse 15 of chapter 2 of Genesis says, and Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the garden. So he was formed and then put in the garden, right? To serve and guard or keep. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the human being, saying, eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right? All right, BA, read Genesis chapter 2, verse 18 for me, please.
And I'm reading from the King James. And the Lord, or Yahweh God, said, it is not good that the man shall be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. 19.
Nope, that's it. So it says it is not good for the man, the human being, to be alone. It needs a counterpart. It needs something on the other side of it, something in front of it to reflect it, like all the rest of the animals had. Right? So this is where you get Ezer Kenegdo. Now, in some translations, it's rendered as help meet. That's not necessarily a sufficient definition. So we'll break it down like this. Commander Curse Part 1, we did a good elaboration on this. But Ezer means an aid, a protect, a deliverer. And then Kenegdo It's the root neged means something on the opposite side, on the opposite end. So when you look at a mirror, your image is on the opposite end. That's all it means, right? Doesn't mean like your opponent that you're fighting with. I know it's somebody on the opposite end or something on the opposite end, right? So it's something on the opposite end, connecto, like the opposite of him, like on the other side of him. So Ezer Kenegdo put together means an aid, a protector, a deliverer that corresponds to him, right? So pretty much the Ezer Kenegdo, it's the woman is the man outside of the man, standing in front of him. That's all. The woman is the man outside of the man who's on the other side of him. Go ahead, B.
She's the reflection,
The reflection
the counterpart.
counterpart.
That's it. So not
Absolutely.
to where he's better or less without her. I mean, it's more so of a this is someone to complement you.
To create like
Yeah,
a plug in a socket.
is that the male and female? But let's read in the Septuagint because the Septuagint lays it out very well. I like this how the Septuagint reads it. Check this out the Septuagint.
Right.
Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man, anthropos, or the human being, should be alone. Let us make him a help suitable to him.
Sorry about that, y'all. Go ahead.
Um,
Okay, I had got a phone call, but it's all good.
okay. Yeah, it's I'll read it again. Verse 18.
Genesis two
Genesis
eight.
chapter 2 and
Okay.
2, yeah, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. Let us make for him a help suitable to him. Suitable. Someone to complement.
Compliment.
The opposite that helps. That
Right.
counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
To be for or to be against as well, in a sense. But at the
Right.
same time, there is a connection there. When they come together,
Mm-hmm.
they are to be united.
Right.
Something that was separated but brought back.
Right. That's pretty much the theme. According to the scripture, BA, you have the days even separated apart, and even these elements or attributes separated apart to be brought back together to create that echad, that whole, that oneness, right?
Exactly.
And so we're gonna elaborate a little more when we get to Genesis 3:16, that the Ezer Kenegdo, when it says before or on the opposite side, it's not it's not for competition, it's for the benefit. It's for the benefit that benefits both parties in the situation, which is the people of the marriage, pretty much. So when I know before is like a preposition meaning in front of, but when somebody's in front of you, pretty much they're on the opposite side, they're on the opposite end, they're on the other end, right? So that Ezer Kenegdo, at times she's going to do her function, and her function is quite unique because she goes a couple of ways at the same time, but it's for the benefit of the man, which actually benefits the couple as a whole. And me as a married woman, I will say I've learned this, and I'm seeing the benefits. of benefiting of the function of the Ezer Kenegdo. It seems like nagging sometimes, right? But it's for the benefit of the both. So the Ezer, the word Ezer, is used a lot of times, at least what is it, like 17, 18 times when it's talking
Yeah.
about the Most High Yahweh coming to get Israel out of a distressful situation, to deliver them and protect them in a distressful situation. So I'm gonna have BA read two examples of that in the scripture. So Exodus 18 verse 4.
Yeah. And there's another one in the prophets as well. I think Hosea is a very good example as well, when he says to Israel, Israel, I am your help.
Correct. Right. And that
Exodus 18.
Yahweh as the help is not a subordinate. Correct.
Mm, mm. We know people won't say that. They won't say
Well,
that. But
yeah.
you never know. We've heard a lot over the years. We've heard quite a few things.
Right. Well,
You
this
know
is
what I'm
this is
saying?
this is for those who have ears to hear.
Exactly.
That's all. Hallelujah, Eliah. All right. So Exodus 18 verse 4.
And the name of the other was Eleazar. For God of my fathers said he was my help.
The God of my fathers, who is Yahweh, is the help. And there, that word
But check this out.
H5826. Go ahead, BA.
Helped and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh.
Right. That's the same verse, right? Exodus 18 verse
In
4.
verse 4.
So it
Mhm.
says, the God of my fathers help and what now?
It said, helped and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh.
Right. So this type of strength that the woman has is not necessarily physical. It's not supposed to be physical. There's different aspects of strength. There's emotional strength, there's mental strength, there's spiritual strength, as well as physical strength. All these work together, right? So the Ezer Kenegdo, she most likely is that emotional strength, that mental strength, and that spiritual strength. But that's not a one up for anything. That's not a one up for women. Let me say that. That's not a one up for women. Okay? This is not about women over men. This is not about men over women. This is about balance and reestablishing our function from the Hebraic mindset, not this 21st century Greco-Romanized Western mindset. Okay? So, Ezer 5826 in the Strongs, that's where we get from the word Azarah. H5835. Now, the word Azarah, it means the outer court of the temple. Outer court of the temple. And if you
Oh,
look at the
wow.
outer, right, if you look at the outer court of the temple, if you look at pictures, it's called the court of the women.
You didn't say that.
I didn't I? Darn it.
Oh, wow. Don't say that no more.
I better be silent and be quiet and keep my head covered, huh?
You know that phobia.
Where my hair wrap? Where my hair
There
wrap
go
at?
dogma. There go that dogma.
Oh,
Don't they let
no.
her push that dogma? How dare you say that? Thus saith the Lord.
Yeah, you go. VA, well, he's something else. So yeah, that's just a little bit of that, but we'll elaborate on that a little more. So, uh, let's continue. Um, Genesis 2 verses 23 to 24. BA.
Genesis 2,
Yep, Genesis 2 verses 23 to 24.
and it reads, I'm reading for the Septuagint. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Okay. 22. And Adam said, this now is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of her husband. That's what it says in the Septuagint. 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. And the two were naked, both Adam and his wife, and were not ashamed.
All right, so pause. Let's hold off on 25 real quick. We gonna go
Yeah.
to it. We gonna
We
go
gonna
to
get
it.
there, bro. We gonna deal with it. Well, we
We
gonna deal
gonna
with it.
deal with that. Yittity. All right, so Genesis 2 verse 23. Yeah,
I'm
we
so
gonna deal with that. Hey, I'm having fun with the word of the Most High because this has opened my understanding like immensely. But Genesis 2:23, it says Adam, it says Wayomer ha Adam zot hapa'am, and said Adam ha Adam, which is let me see something here. That's Adam. Now it switches from calling Adam the anthropos to just Adam, right? And we're gonna see something here. So just Adam. So I'm gonna be distinguishing between Adam as the male or Adam as the human being female pair. So Adam now is being called what you call it, a proper noun, a proper name, and we're gonna show why, right?
Oh, is this the each? Is this the husband? The husband and the.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
yeah. So um, when Adam is calling um um Isha, because it's because it's coming out of Ish, right? Man. And I know the Septuagint says husband, but this is why we have to go into the Hebrew text. And I didn't want to start reading too much Hebrew. Excuse me for that, because I'll get to going. But you cannot have an Isha without an Ish. So they go from male and female pair human being to now when they're separated out again, it's Ish and Isha. So the Isha comes out of an Ish. So you can't have an Isha or a woman without an Ish, a man, right? The thing is, we're gonna see some things, and I'll tell you about it. I haven't taken any pictures to show today, but there's something that's what we're gonna see that's going on in the text that you can really only see from the Hebrew text when you look at the Hebrew words. All right. So the narrator is actually going to start to tell a result or tell a result before they tell what actually took place in the event to get to the result. So the result is told first, and then the event that happened to get to the result is told next, right? Sort of like, a flashback. So you can't have an Isha without an Ish. And this is now the reason why Adam is called a proper name now is because of something. We're going to show that, right? We're going to show that the male, the man was called Ish up until the fall. Then he reverts to being called the proper name Adam. We'll make a connection because I know that seems a little weird. All right. Okay. Uh, Genesis 2:25, BA.
225. And it reads, okay, well, what we see in the Septuagint is different, number different. So it's chapter 3, verse 1, the Septuagint. All
Okay.
right. And the two were naked, both Adam and his wife, and were not ashamed.
All right. So it's saying Ha Adam we ishto we lo Yitabo Shashu. Yitabo Shashu were not ashamed. So Ha Adam, proper name Adam, We Ishto, the root word is Isha, right? So woman, and then the possessive at the end means his. So Ha Adam, We Ishto and his wife, um, and they were not ashamed. They were naked. Now, help me, Father. So, we already talked a little bit about this in Commander Curse Part 1, but let's elaborate some more. So, the narrator here is saying they were already naked and unashamed. Now, we're going to bring out the concept of honor versus shame. Honor versus shame, this concept is all throughout the Bible, including the original covenant, the Old Testament, and the renewed covenant, the New Testament. Honor and shame, and there are societal rules within a culture that have to deal with how people looked at one another and what accounted for somebody being honorable versus what somebody did to be shameful. You know, um, so Adam and his wife, what it says here, they were naked and unashamed. Now, the word naked here is the word arom, H6174, right? In Genesis 3 and 1, read that for me, BA. So in Genesis 3 and 1, and then in Septuagint, it would be Genesis 3 and 2. Read that for me, please.
In the Septuagint, Genesis chapter 3, verse 2. Now the serpent was the most crafty of all the brutes on the earth, which the Lord God made. And the serpent said to the woman, wherefore has God said, eat not of every tree of the garden?
All right. So when it says the serpent or the Nahash was more crafty than all the lives of the field, right? You know what that word is in the Hebrew? That word is arum. That word is arum, H6175. And do you know where arum comes from? It comes from H6174, which is naked. So when it says the serpent was crafty and subtle, it was pretty much saying the serpent was naked. We're going to make a connection, so pay attention, pay attention.
Please pay
So
attention.
Adam and his wife, they were naked. The serpent was naked too, right? The serpent was naked too. But watch this. So now this Genesis 2 and 25 ties into Genesis 3 and 1 in that where it says the serpent was naked, right? So when Adam and his wife, they were unashamed, they did not know. So not knowing or not being aware or not being conscious of nakedness was order. That was what we call order. Okay? It was order and it was honorable because it was established from Yahweh. Right? So the not knowing is not knowingness, the unaware, the not being conscious was order. Because why? Because the most high covered or the most high strengthened them or the most high's might was with them because what? The Ruach, the spirit, walked directly with Adam.
Exactly. The Most High's presence was there.
Hmm. So not knowing nakedness was order and it was honor. So put a pin there. Not knowing nakedness is order and honor because the most high Yahweh spirit was directly there empowering them or strengthening them, right? So the most high's power or the most high's strength or might is cover. Put a pin there, okay? All right. So, um shame. I'm gonna read the Webster's dictionary word for shame and then we're going to go somewhere, right? So shame is defined as a painful feeling of humiliation, or distress caused by consciousness or wrong or foolish behavior, right? It means to be found out. It means to be discovered, disgraced, dishonored, right? Like I said, this concept of honor versus shame is going to be here, right? So when I said that the woman was the boundary keeper, right? People wonder why did the serpent go to the woman instead of the man? Well, if you understand her role as a female embedded in her DNA, as we got informed from the definition of nekeba, you will see that she's the boundary keeper. So talk to the boundary. That's all. It's not a one up on anything, right? That's why it's talking. But you see what the woman says. The woman says in Genesis 3, uh, excuse me, not the woman, the serpent says a question. He's getting her to doubt, right? He's getting her to doubt that the Most High said, don't eat up every tree of the garden. Now, remember, I keep saying trees are likened to people, especially leaders, right? Trees are likened to people, especially leaders. And we're going to see what the trees and the leaders are. But real quick, BA, read Genesis chapter 3, verses 2 and 3.
All right. I'm going to read for the King James. You said 2 and 3?
Yep.
And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden.
She said, who? Who may eat?
We may
We.
eat.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
And remember, just to elaborate real, or to say real quick, notice she said, well, my husband told me. No. It was simple for her. She understood. She said, and the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God or Elohim have said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Right. Now, the Most High didn't say don't touch it. He just said don't eat of it. Right? So when you get somebody who's asking you questions, playing with your mind, getting in your head, you know, to the point where they may be frustrating you, you start adding things that were not there. You know what I mean? But she said we can eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Now, the trees represent people or leaders, right? So watch this. And I'm going to put out something that the sources here that I went into for this video: Dina Dye, Skip Moen, um, Ryan White, G.K. Bill.
Very good sources. Very good
These
sources.
are the sources where we're getting a lot of this credible history from, right? But BA, go to Judges chapter 9, and we're going to read something here. Judges chapter 9, verses 18 to 15. We're going to see how these trees are representative of people and especially leaders. Watch this.
All right, Judges chapter 9. You're going to read that good old parable. Chapter 9. And what verse? Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Verse 11. Oh, no, verse
Hold
9.
on. Hold on. Let me tell you. Chapter 9, start at verse 8.
Yeah, verse 8. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them, and they said unto the olive tree, reign thou over us. But the olive tree said unto them, should I leave my fatness, wherewith by me they honor God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Verse 10. And the tree said to the fig tree, come thou and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said the trees unto the vine, come thou and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, should I leave my wine, with which cleareth, which cherith God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Verse 14. Then said all the trees unto the bramble, come down and reign over us. And the bramble said, check this out, unto the trees, if in truth ye anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let the fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.
Okay, so this story of this parable of the trees is in the middle of Judges chapter 9, right? This is in the time of Deborah when she was judge at the
Mhm.
time over Israel, right?
Mhm.
And Abimelech was the king, right? Abimelech means my father is king, right? Abimelech was king over what was he was king over Shechem, right? King over Shechem during that time. And so he was the son of a concubine. He was not a legitimate son, right? So the people pretty much are saying, "Hey, Abimelech, come reign over us." Right? So he's likened to the king that would be that thorn bush. And the tree that said should I leave the fig tree that says should I leave my sweetness and my good fruit to go be promoted over the trees, that would be likened to Deborah. So you have leadership here. So you have Deborah, she was a judge over Israel at the time, she was in leadership. And then you have Abimelech, although he was king, promoted over Shechem, he was an illegitimate child. He was not the child of the wife of his father, and the people made him king. Leader. Trees likened to people. Leaders, right? But watch this. Read Proverbs 27, verse 18, BA.
Proverbs 27 and verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
Whoso keepeth the fig tree shall eat the fruit thereof. So he that waiteth on his master shall be honored.
Right. So whoso keepeth the fig tree, right? So that's language that corresponds to or correlates to keeping or guarding, right? As we see in other chapters. I'm not going to read them, but the same word here is keeping and guarding, shamar, right? Reminds us of keeping. So let's see. I'm going to read Leviticus real quick. I'm going to read Leviticus 18 and 30 real quick just to give you a sample. So it says, and you shall guard or keep my charge so as not to do any of these abominable laws which were done before you, so as not to defile yourselves by them. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So trees are likened to people. And what comes off the tree is the leaf. The leaf I'm proposing are the commandments of Yahweh. And then the fruit I'm proposing, right? The fruit I'm proposing is the results or the produce from keeping the commandments. I know I just said a mouthful, but this is something you'll have to probably take to the Most High to get some understanding from, to comprehend what's going on, what I just said. So the trees are likened to the people. The leaf is likened to the commandments, right? And then the fruit is likened to the produce results from keeping the commandments. So when the fruit when Adam Hawa said we cannot eat of the fruit of certain trees, we cannot get the results or the produce from keeping the commandments. So the trees are the leaders. So the leaf from the tree would be those leaders' commandments, those leaders' instructions, right? Those people's instructions, right? All right. So anything else you want to bring out before I have you read further, BA?
As far, let's see, let's go back to Genesis chapter 3. Let's see. And we
It's a
read
great
3 and
connection
4,
there
right?
too.
Now, one thing about it, Eve did mention that they're not to touch it, right? But I wanted to most definitely see there was something here. I was looking up the word, and it reads the word is naga. Is that right,
The
Sean?
word from which
Touch is translated to touch in English, but the Hebrew word naga,
okay, go ahead.
and it reads in part four. I mean, the fourth definition. Let me see. Let me just read some of the words. It says, "Lay hand upon for any purpose, a euphemism to lie with the woman, to imply to reach, figurative, to arrive, acquire, to strike." But the point I wanted to bring up though, one definition said the word is used to refer to sexual contact with another person, such as another person. To refer to the touch of God's hand means that divine chastisement had been received, had pity upon me. My point overall is what she's saying is we're not even supposed to touch it, even though the commandment was this, there's nothing saying that she wasn't supposed to touch it. But in other words, to take upon it. You know what I'm saying? Not to even do anything toward the tree, not to touch it, not don't even get into it because it can also lead to you flirting with it and actually tasting or eating of it.
Right.
You know
And
what I'm saying?
remember, yeah, I did say before that taking of something is a word likened to marriage,
Exactly. And,
and
and
eating
so
is still in the deal. But go ahead.
and then this also lines up with fornication.
That's what we're gonna see.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
let's do this. Let's go to Genesis 3 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the same, plainly said that would be the same as how he says, do not mingle with them, do not take on the ways of the heathen, um, do not lay with their women, or likewise give your women, marry them, and such of that nature. Is it
Right.
like in the same
Because
way?
right.
But we're
They're
just
gonna
speaking in parables of like the trees and the fruit and partaking in the fruit of that nature. Okay.
right.
Exactly. There you go. Man, I like that.
Right.
And what we have, verse 5.
Yep. Genesis 3 and 5.
Let's read 4 real quick. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Here you go. For God doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
Right. So when the woman she saw that this would make her wise to do her function better was her intent, but along with that, to do the function better, you really don't need that because that's idolatry. Because um they already were made perfect. They already were equipped with everything they needed to do already for their function. So when you're putting your wants and desires over the Most High Yahweh, that's idolatry. So this is a situation of idolatry here in the garden. So that it's idolatry is obedience or allegiance um, to a created being or object other than the Most High Yahweh, the true and living God, the true and living Creator. So wanting something just because it'll make you better when you really don't need it.
Because you're already perfect.
You're already perfect. You're already equipped with everything you need already to do your function. So that's putting your wants, your desires, your lusts, and your flesh over the Most High's will. That's idolatry, right? And then, real quick, in Genesis 3 and 6, it says she took and eat and gave to her husband with her. Not gonna read that, but took and gave her husband with her. Um, when she took, that's the marriage, and she ate the consummation, and so Adam was with her, not just by her side, but agreeing with everything, and then he did it as well. So that's idolatry. right? And idolatry is also likened to adultery. And we're going to elaborate on that. Actually, now let's do that. So, BA, read Genesis 3 and 7.
And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed, here we go, fig leaves together. It made themselves aprons.
Right. So in the scriptures, ISR it says, then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made loin coverings for themselves. Now the word for fig leaf is actually singular, so it means fig leaf. They sewed a fig leaf and made loin coverings. Right. So watch this. I'm going to read this. It says the eyes were open. Now they're knowing nakedness. Remember, being unashamed was not knowing. Now they are knowing, so that brings on shame, right? So um the knowingness, right? So they know that they're naked now, and they take this fig leaf to sew it together to cover themselves. So I propose that this forbidden fruit, right, the fruit was the result of the commandments, and the commandments were the leaf. The commandments were the instructions from somebody else or some other created entity other than Yahweh Elohim.
Uh-oh.
That's idolatry and adultery. So we're going to check out this forbidden fruit thing. So, forbidden fruit. I'm saying from the text, I believe that the forbidden fruit was something of a fig tree. So, something of a fig tree, at the time of forbidden, we're going to see why, but I believe that's what's going to restore, right? But check this out. So, go to Leviticus 19, BA, Leviticus 19, and read verses 23 to 25.
Leviticus 19. 23 to 25, you said?
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And when ye shall come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be uncircumcised unto you. It shall
Wait,
not
wait,
be.
wait, wait. Say that again. You can't yawn and try to
I'm
talk. You know
sorry.
how you be.
I'm sorry. Did we read that
All
from
right.
the top?
I know this is a long lesson, y'all, but we
No,
we
no,
gonna
it's
get
all
through
good. It's all good because this we're gonna take this and we're gonna show a real big connection coming up after this
it.
one. I love
Right,
this part.
right.
And when ye shall come into the land and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you, it shall not be eaten of. But in the 4th year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy to praise the Lord withal. And in the 5th year, in the 5th year shall ye eat of the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I am the Lord your God.
All right. So I'm proposing that the text is saying that there's a possibility when Adam and Hawa ate of the tree, it was possible that it wasn't circumcised, that they didn't give it the process of time to go ahead and eat it. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's a connection here in the Gospels.
Exactly.
Sister Kirsten, I'm gonna have Sister Kirsten read it. Is that cool?
Present.
So Luke 13,
Luke 13. Let me get it.
verses 6 to 9.
You gotta excuse me for a second. I was playing mommy, so I was away from my book.
Oh, no problem.
Let's see. Luke. You said Luke 9. You there, sis?
Luke 13.
Oh, Luke 13. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Sorry about that. Luke chapter 13,
All right.
read verses 6 to 9.
All right. He spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. Then he said unto the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it the ground? I'm sorry. I'm going to read it again. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it the ground? And he answered, said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it, and dung it. I'm sorry. And if it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down.
All right. So in Leviticus 19, you have to um, let the tree sit for 3 years, and then set it aside the fourth year to be set apart, and then in the fifth year you eat it. Right. So the fig, I'm saying that's what the fig. That's what they possibly ate in the garden, right? And the root word for fig is te'ena, right? Te'ena, and it's from the Hebrew word H8384. Right now, if you look at um, H8385, where te'ena comes from, it's the word ta'ana. So fig is te'ena, and then ta'ana, it means the time of heat. You know how dogs go into heat, right? It means time of heat. For mammal females, it has to do with the hormones and that drive for reproducing. So when a female has the time of heat, right? It produces in that male to seek out, because it's that time, and it's that hormone that the female has that draws or drives that male to seek it out for reproducing. And we know what reproducing is. It's bringing life. So the fig has something to do with bringing life, right? So the fig could be looked at as something to seek out or meet, which produces life. So now that urge of hormones in well, the urge of the hormones is powerful, right? So that urge of the hormones could be powerful in the loins, so much that it can be for a worthless purpose, or a work that produces no righteous result, right? So if you're eating of something that's not circumcised, or pretty much sanctified yet, right? You could be trying to get to something that produces life, right? But you have to have produce life that can be with a purpose that has a righteous result, right? So um in Genesis 3:7, it says their eyes were open, right? So Adam, the male and the female, the human being, right? They realize they are now just like the serpent, right? Because they were naked and unashamed. They were not knowing, but the serpent was crafty or naked, right? But watch this. They're like the snake. The snake says, "You think I'm transparent," right? The snake says, "You think I'm naked, or easy to perceive, or easy to detect a motive," right? However, the snake is not. The snake is not transparent. You think I'm naked. You think you can see me. You think you can see what motive I got going on, right? So Adam and Eve realize now they're like the serpent. They realize that they're not transparent. They realize that their motive can be detected, right? So Adam and Eve now were partaking in the invitation to become aware or conscious of the possibility of a hidden agenda inside of them, which is idolatry, right? That hidden agenda or idolatry is what? putting your own desires or will before or in the front of the Most High Yahweh. Idolatry is also adultery, right? Because you're taking and marrying or eating and consummating or sealing the deal of being in a covenant with the opposition or someone else to be your deity, your power instead of Yahweh, right? And this is why I also seen the parallel of Adam and Eve also being the entity talked about in Ezekiel 28, because they were the original priests. They wanted to be what? Like the Most High and run with their own will, wanted to run with their own desire, right? And watch this. So let me just read this note here. Let me read the notes. They tried to cover themselves, right? Remember I said the original cover that was order and honor was Yahweh. That cover was that power of Yahweh, that strength or might of Yahweh, right? So now with the fig leaf, they tried to cover themselves or cover their shame in the place where the fruit, because where do we know fruit or progeny comes from, right? So they cover themselves, they cover their reproductive organs, right? Because that's where life, physical life comes from, right? You produce physical life from your reproductive organs, right? So they try to cover themselves or cover their shame in the place where the fruit or the produce or the results from keeping the commandments is supposed to come from. However, proper atonement or restoration needs to be made because life is in the blood, not in the fig leaf. So, in their own power or strength, without the Most High's cover, right? When you're trying to do it with your own power instead of the Most High's power, when you're trying to do it in your own cover instead of the Most High's cover, right? When you try to do something in your own strength or cover yourself in your own strength, you try to reconcile yourselves and bring back life or fruit. They're trying to bring back life or fruit to themselves or cover themselves or their nakedness with the work that produces no righteous result or no benefits because it's without the spirit or power of Yahweh, which brings spiritual life. So they created a dead work when they tried to cover their own self with a fig leaf. They're trying to bring life to themselves without the power of the Most High to give them spiritual life, because as soon as they ate, what was going to happen? They started to decay
Yep.
and die. All
And
right.
not
So,
bearing any fruit, not producing any fruit.
right. So they're trying to cover themselves or their nakedness with a work that produces no righteous result, no benefits, with a leaf of a fig, which is the commandments of Yahweh. But they should attach the leaf or the commandments, right? Because the leaf is the commandments, but they should have attached the leaf or the commandments to their heart, which is where life of the spirit or regeneration of the heart comes from, so you can be obedient to the Most High Yahweh. Now, this is why we don't observe Torah to be saved or to get salvation. We do it as a sign that we are saved, but we never follow the commandments, and they were never given so that it brings salvation. So following the Torah never brought salvation. But I hope that little note I gave uh, brought some understanding or clarity, right?
Most def. And just to land back, we were talking about the leaves and how the leaves, them using the leaves to cover themselves, they were not producing. Turn to Matthew chapter where is that? Matthew chapter 21. I'm gonna show you something.
And also, Bea, before you even get to Matthew, to sow is you're trying to mend. They were trying to sow themselves. They were trying to mend those fig leaves, those commandments themselves, to gird their own loins. So they were attempting to fix it themselves. So
Exactly.
that's what yeah.
Let's read Matthew chapter 21 and verse 17. And it reads, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there. Now in the morning, as he returned into the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereupon but leaves only, and said unto it, let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever. And presently the fig tree withered away.
Mm.
So were those leaves the commandments of men?
Mm, most deaf, because the commandments of man are not fruitful. Go to
Because
Mark
they're,
chapter. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go Mark. They're
Mark,
without the power or might or cover of the Most High, right?
yep. Mark chapter 7. We read this before. We've looked into it. And I'll pick up at verse 1. They came together unto them the Pharisees, men, right? And certain of scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of the disciples eat bread with defiled, that is said with unwashed hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands, ought not to eat, holding traditions of elders. Read that again. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands off, eat not, holding the traditions of the elders. And when they came from the markets, except they wash, they eat not. And many others there be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of the table. Then the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, why wash not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? But what does the Messiah say? He answered and said unto them, what hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their hearts is far from me. How about in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines and the commandments of men? Now we know historically here that the Pharisees, they were applying certain laws in the temple, and what they were doing, they were applying them in their day-to-day lives amongst the people, making the teachings of Torah a burden, adding things. And what did Moses say? Don't add or take away. So you add, you take away, and when you take away, you add. So what the Messiah here is saying, that the traditions of men, you hold these higher than the actual traditions or the actual words of the Most High.
Exactly. Beware. So I'm gonna elaborate more on the concept of honor versus shame. Right. So I'm gonna have BA read Genesis chapter 3, verses 8 to 11.
8 through 11.
Yep. Genesis chapter 3, 8 to 11. And I want to say shalom, shalom to all who are still watching. I know this is long. It's going into the third hour, but hey, like I said, Yahweh willing, I'll break this up into different parts so the each video won't be long. But go ahead, BA.
And it reads, verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee not, thou shouldest not eat? Read verse 12.
Nope. Let's see. Okay, so right here, this is by this time Adam is no longer called the Ish. He's now just called Adam, the proper noun. He's no longer called Ish. And remember, established that in Genesis 2, what is it, verses 23 and 24, once you have an Isha, You got to have an ish because you can't have an isha without an ish. So pretty much up until the time during up until the time before this fall or before they ate, Adam was called the ish. Now he's reverted to being called Adam, the proper noun. He's not in that function of ish, right? He's no longer called ish when he partakes of the tree. He's no longer ish when he partakes of that fruit. That's crazy. But now Adam and Eve now are both the concept they are naked and afraid, right? So naked and afraid is likened to shame, right?
Exactly.
So there's some things about shame I read, right? So we're gonna see some verses that talk about shame, and we're gonna look at a couple of Hebrew words where you see naked as being shame. All right, so let's all take some turns with this. So BA, I'm gonna have you get Exodus 32 and 25. Sister Yahara, she got to get back in. Okay, go ahead, BA, and now I'll pick it up in Numbers 5 and 18.
And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame amongst their enemies.
Okay, so it says Aaron had made them naked, right? Unto their what?
Enemies.
No, no, no. Naked. Read the line again. Read the line again. He had made them naked to what?
And Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame
Right. He made
amongst
them naked to their
their
shame.
shame.
Their
Exactly.
shame among the enemy.
Their enemies. Yep.
Right. So that word naked is H6544, and it's the word para. Para. And that word, it means to loosen, by implication, to expose, dismiss, right? To be bare, to be naked, uncover. All right. Now I'm gonna show you this. Did y'all know that this is the same word in Numbers chapter 5, verse 18, when it talks about when a husband is jealous of his wife, thinking that she may have committed some sort of adultery. The same word here
Uh
for
oh.
loosen or uncover is in Numbers 5 and 18. This is about shame. This is not about a woman covering her head with some sort of literal piece of cloth, right? This is about shame, right? So Numbers 5:18 it says, "And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord Yahweh and uncover or para the woman's head and put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering, and the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causeth the curse." Now, when it says uncover, it says para, to loosen, to make bare, right? It says uncover the woman's head. So people say, okay, well, that means your little head. Nah, it's likened to hair because the same word head is used for the implication that we have for Nazarites in Numbers chapter 6. It says,
Mm-hmm.
for a Nazarite, the razor shall not
Not
go
touch his
on
head.
his head.
Exactly. Should not touch his head. Exactly.
That means the hair. It shall not touch his hair. The razor shall not touch his hair. That's why you're a Nazarite, because you got to let your hair
Oh
grow long, right?
wow.
So
Wow.
in Numbers 18, excuse me, in Numbers 5:18, it's saying that a woman, when she's brought forth to this priest, um, this is a public thing. This is a ritual where she can be publicly shamed. So loosening the hair or disheveling the hair is something of shaming,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm,
It's
mm.
something of shaming. And we're also going to see something in Leviticus 13. But let me bring up something that I have here. This is called it's called of the ordeal of the ordeal of jealousy. and it's from a book that you can actually go to the Google Playbooks and get and look at. It's the Encyclopedia Biblica, a dictionary of the Bible, volume 2. Okay, and if you go to page 625 of this book, let me get to it. If you go to page 625 of this book, it talks about the ordeal of jealousy. I'm looking at it on my phone here. Um, let's see. Nah, come on. Okay, let's go back here. Sorry about that. Okay, so the ordeal of jealousy. If you look at some of the explanation here, it says one other element in this ritual has been taken, and with more reason, to symbolize the woman's shame. VIZ dot. You know what that means, respectfully, visually, the loosing of the hair,
Mm-hmm.
right? It has to do with shame. So uncovering has to do with shame. It also means naked, as we saw, right? And this is also in Numbers 30, right? In Numbers 30, where it says a husband can annul the vow of his wife
Mm-hmm.
if he hears it, and a father can annul his daughter who hasn't been married or widowed, right? A young daughter, he can actually annul his daughter's vow if he hear it. The reason being is it has to do with something done in the public, because when you honor a vow, you have to bring it to the priest, and that's something done in public, right? And if you have a vow that you cannot meet, well, something done in public can have you shamed. If you couldn't pay as a woman, you didn't want your women to be shamed, right? So this is not about authority. This is about honor. This is about making sure this woman has honor,
And she's being righteous.
right? You want to make sure somebody has honor. So you don't want to do anything that's going to bring them dishonor, which is shame. Has nothing
Exactly.
has nothing to do with authority.
Has nothing to do with
Oh,
covering
this is
your
good.
head.
This
Nothing
is
to do
good.
with nothing to do with literal covering of the head. And actually,
Nothing at all.
you can go into the Mishnah. The Mishnah is in the Talmud. You can go to Mishnah Sota, Sotah, Mishnah Sota 1 and 5, the section 1 and 5, and you can see where the rabbis and sages, as far as history, I don't follow it, but as far as history, what they said is that that loosening of the hair was an act of shame, public shame. You can go look at it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Deuteronomy 24 verse 1. I'm not going to read it, but it also, well, I'm not. No, no, let's read it. Deuteronomy 24 and 1. Sis, you want to read that, sis? I just want to make a point real quick, and then we'll go further.
Sure, give me 1 second. Let me look get it.
Oh, are you able to get it? Because if not, don't worry.
I'm already there. If you
Actually, yeah. B8, could you get it, please? Thank you.
Okay, go ahead,
yeah.
Bia.
24 and verse 1. When a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write a bill of divorcement and give it to her hand, and send her out of his house.
So this word for uncleanness, H6172, is erva, and it means nakedness or shame. It means nakedness, shame, or unclean or impure,
Wow.
right? So it means naked, shame, unclean, and impure, right? H6172. So this word is also related to exile. Exile, I'm not going to read it, but it's H1473, which comes from um, H1540, right? Those words mean to strip, Exile means you're stripped in a disgraceful sense. You're removed. You're discovered. You're uncovered. What does that mean? Nakedness. What does that mean? Shame. You know why
Shame.
you're naked and afraid and shame? Because you don't have any protection. You don't have anything like a weapon to defend you. You know how when some of the brothers or maybe sisters, when they go out when they're in a gang, or even just when they're in the streets or have a legal concealed license to carry or whatever, and if they're caught outside and without their protection, so to speak, they'd be like, I'm out here naked, son. I'm out here naked in these streets,
Meaning
right?
they don't have no kind of protection. Yeah.
Right. Right. And it brings on some sort of shame because you don't have your protection, you don't have your cover, you don't have that strength or that power to be with you, right? So that was likened to um um Adam and Eve. Now they're conscious that they're shame. Now they're knowing that they have another agenda, a hidden agenda. Now they're knowing that they have this animalistic nature inside of them that's wanting to be idolatrous and have their own will or desire or their fleshly needs above the most high, right? Now we're going to talk more on shame when we get to Genesis chapter 22 to 24. We're almost there, right? We're almost there.
I so hate to cut out, but I am taking my daughter to see her cousin that's in this area today. So I
Okay.
do have to play mommy for a while. My
Yes.
apologies for
Oh,
cutting
no,
out,
Oh,
no
that's fair.
apologies. We
but it was
almost
a blessing to be in the midst of two great minds.
Yes, and I hope you were enlightened. And then this part that you don't see here, hopefully you go back and
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
praise the
Beyond,
Most High.
beyond.
Praise the Most High.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
sister.
welcome. You're
Thank
welcome.
you, BA. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, shalom,
Shalom,
shalom.
everyone.
All right, so um, in Genesis 3:14, it says Yahweh said to the serpent, well, after I hear echo. Okay, BA, you there, or you got two things up? Okay, okay. Um, After the Most High asks, "Where are you?" Pretty much, um, it's not necessarily a location word, but you're supposed to be with me. You're not with me, so where are you? You know, um, and then there's this blame game being played. Um, Adam said, "Hey, it's this wife you gave me here. It's this woman you gave me." So not only is Adam blaming Adam, not only is Adam blaming the woman, he's blaming the Most High. And then the woman says, "Well, the serpent beguiled me." And so here goes the serpent now in 3:14, Genesis 3:14. The serpent gets directly cursed. All right, the serpent gets directly cursed. Now I want to make this point: Adam and Eve themselves as humans do not get directly cursed. Only their function gets cursed. This is why there can be a reversal of the curse in function, right? But we're going to see this. BA, read Genesis 3:16, please.
Yep.
All right, we wrapping up. We probably got about half an hour to go. If we don't get excited and add too much commentary, but I appreciate all y'all who are still tuning in and those who did tune in and maybe had to go, as it's getting late on the East Coast. All right.
All right. And we have 3:16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Uh-oh.
Uh oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh oh.
Yeah.
All right, all right. There's some feedback, BA, when you talking or something.
Mute.
Okay, because you were actually I don't know, you on another device or something before this one. It looks like you have a lag on your picture. But I'll go ahead and continue here. So Genesis 3:16, it says in the ISR, to the woman he said, I greatly increase your sorrow and your conception, bring forth children in pain, and your desires for your husband, and he does rule over you. Now, in the Hebrew, look at some things. Um, this verse right here is not a prescription for hierarchy. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a woman. Um, when you look at the Hebrew of the text, remember Adam and Eve, before they were Adam and Eve, they were human beings. They were a male and female pair, and they were given a function that's built into their DNA to do. Right? So if something's built into your DNA to do, your function is built into your DNA to do, you still got to do it. Right? What's happening now is their function is now in a state where it's going to be difficult to do it. Even though you got to do it, it's going to be difficult. You can't unbind your DNA, right? You can't unbind your DNA. So it says in Genesis 3:16, um, El Haisha Amar Harba Arbe, it's Zevonek Weheronek Beetze, in sorrow, right? In sorrow. That word is actually in a lot of text translated as pain. And when people see pain, they automatically only think of some sort of physical pain. But that's not the only pain there is. There's pain such as grief or sorrow or worrisomeness. That's this word here. H6089. It's worrisomeness. It's um you're frustrated, you're grieved, you're in sorrow. So when you raise your children and you're conceiving and you're rearing the children, you're going to feel this worrisomeness when you're rearing them and bringing them up in this world, right? That same word for sorrow is the same word used in Genesis 3:17 when the Most High is talking to the man, right? Let me make sure I'm getting the word right. Yep, 6089. So in Genesis 3:16, it says, "Thy desire, teshuka, will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Now, he shall or he will does not mean he should. That word does not translate to should, right? That word does not translate to should. He will. That means he's going to do something in his own will. And right here, the Most High Yahweh is directly talking to the woman. He's not talking to the man. This is not a prescription of how things are supposed to be. This is describing what's going to happen to that function that's built in her DNA to try to be that Ezer Kenegdo, right? The Most High is saying you're going to try to do your job or your function that you're built to do as an Ezer Kenegdo woman, but this husband of yours that you're longing for, this husband that you're desiring, because he's no longer even called a husband now, he's going to do his will to rule over you. Right? Now, I'm also going to say something to elaborate on this too. Uh, when there's a commandment, when there's a request, when you want somebody to do something, you talk directly to them. Right? So if the man was commanded by the Most High Yahweh to lead a woman or be the authority over woman, he would first talk to the man. And then he would say to the man, if he wanted the man to lead or have authority over, he would say, you shall rule your wife. He would have said that directly to the man if he wanted the man to do that. Also,
That's
the
not
Most
the
High,
case.
say that again, Bien?
That's not the case right here.
That's not the case. Now, if the Most High wanted to directly command the man to be the leader or ruler or authority over the wife, he would have said to the man, you shall lead or be the ruler, or you shall be the authority over your wife. He did not say that to the man. He did not say that at all here. So this is not a prescription. This is not how something should be. This is a describing of what's going to happen in this fallen state here. Okay. Now, I also want to talk about this verse when it comes to the Septuagint, right? In the Septuagint, the word is actually translated a little better because in the Hebrew Teshuka, I've definitely heard quite a few people say the desire for the husband is the woman's lust. No, it's not, because the same word is used in Genesis 4 and 7 to talk about Cain. How can Cain have a woman's lust? Oh, okay. Now, Catherine Bushnell, in her book God's Word to Women, it was first published in 1910. It brought out information that the word teshuka, which is the Hebrew word for desire, was apostropho in the Greek, meaning to turn away. Right? It's about Eve turning away from Yahweh as her deity, her power, right? And toward her husband as the focus of her life, making him more significant than Yahweh. And so Catherine Bushnell, she was the first to point out that a critical change in translation of desire as lust occurred in the year 1528 after the text was written by a Catholic monk named Pagnino. Now, her source will resist her from being the Ezer, although it's built in her DNA to do her function. So Adam is the head, meaning source, kafale. That's what head means in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. Head means source. It's the origin, or it's the beginning point, like a literal head, right? Your head is the source from where your blood comes from to the rest of your body, right? So Adam, as the male and female pair, as human beings, their source is the ground. So they come from the ground. They come from the source of the ground, right? And so uh, Eve, Hawa, comes from the source of the man. She came out of the man. She is the man outside of the man. So her source is the man, right? So in this verse is saying her source will resist her from being that Ezer. Her source is resisting her to be that aid, that protector, that deliverer, although it's built in her DNA to do it. So it's going to be difficult for her to do her function, right? So, like I said, the same word for pain and sorrow, H6089 from H6087, is the same word found in Genesis 3:17 to mean worrisome, toil, right? It's not physical pain. And so this is not a commandment directed to the man to do. The Most High is only talking to the woman, saying the description of what will happen when her husband is conducting himself in a fallen nature, trying to be the Most High, because she's turning to him as the Most High instead of turning to the Most High herself. This is not a prescription, and this is not hierarchy. This is not a prescription, and it's not hierarchy. And so Genesis 3:17, it says, and to the man he said, then now he's talking to the man. Now Yahweh is talking to the man. He says, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree which I commanded you, saying, do not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil or in sorrow, you are to eat of it all the days of your life. And the ground brings forth thorns and thistles for you, right? And you shall eat the plants of the field. So only the function of the man is cursed, not him. What got directly cursed is the ground, which is the source from whence human being came from, right? And so his function as a man is going to be difficult because his source, which is the ground, is cursed. So the ground is going to resist him a little bit. Now, what's built into the man's function is still, yeah, you got to work the ground to get your produce and your food or whatnot. But when you're having produce and food come from the ground, it's going to resist you a little bit. We're almost done.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear
All
you.
right. Okay, and it reads, and he called his name Noah, saying, the same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed.
Right. So the people needed comfort in their work because the ground was cursed, not them. The ground was, and so they need a little comfort because their job, their duty has become a little difficult to do. But now they have comfort in in doing their work. So this is where we see curses in the function can be reversed. And anybody who believes in Yeshua as Messiah, the shed blood, you are relieved from curses. You're relieved from the curses of Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 to 68. You're relieved from those curses. Those curses don't feel good. Those curses have never benefited us as a people. And for anybody who thinks Genesis 3:16 is still a commandment, that's because maybe you got to check your heart, because maybe it's a convenience for you to have somebody, that you can lord over or whatnot.
And like we were saying earlier, it was never commanded for the human beings or the male and female to have dominion over each other. You don't see it.
Correct.
It's not a commandment.
Well,
So pretty
go ahead.
man, not go ahead, sis.
Oh, I'm gonna just have you okay. I'm gonna have you read Genesis 3:20. Final decisions because, doesn't forgive her. Right? That's what happens. Well, I shouldn't have listened to you. I shouldn't have went with you. I shouldn't have did this, and the trust is not there anymore. And now you don't trust the woman to be the Azer. You don't trust the woman to be the aid, protector, deliverer because you haven't forgiven. Now you want to make all the final decisions yourself. Right? So check this out. The word shofka. The word shofka is a Hebrew word, H8212, and it's a male reproductive organ. And when you look in the Strong's Concordance, it does say a penis, right? So shovka is that male reproductive organ from which comes from H8210, the word shafak. The word shafak is a Hebrew word that means remit or forgive, meaning to pour out life, because he is head as source, right? So when a man does not pour out himself or pour out his life to the woman, he does not forgive her. This is why Paul said what he did in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. He said, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself.
Christ forgave. Everybody talks about being like the Messiah. We have to learn how to forgive.
We have to learn how to forgive. Right? Turn to let's go read Genesis 3:21. BA, we almost home. We almost home. And
And
praise, go ahead, BA. Sorry, go ahead.
it's all good. And Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothe them. Now this, because this shows forgiveness.
Right. 3:21 says Yahweh Elohim made coats of skin for the man and his wife and dressed them. Now I'm going to show that this language is forgiveness, and it's also the language used when the Most High clothed the priest. Watch this. Yahweh forgives by putting coats of skin garments on Adam, then properly atones or reconciles with blood, because the life is in the blood. Leviticus 17:11, right? The life is in the blood. The blood is likened to the water, water likened to the spirit, which is likened to Yahweh, right? Yahweh is that cover. Yahweh is that strength. Yahweh is that might, that power, right? And so the words clothed with coat and garments are used in Leviticus chapter 8, verse 7 and 18. If BA, if you're there, you can read. If not, I'll go ahead and read it.
Say it again, read what?
Leviticus chapter 8, verse 7.
Leviticus chapter 8.
Yep, verse 7. We're going to show how forgiveness is likened to that coat. When you're clothed with a coat, you're forgiven and you're restored, and then you're able to be atoned for or reconciled or restored. So Leviticus 8, verse 7.
Verse 7, it reads, and he put upon him the coat and girded him with the girdle and clothed him with the robe and put the ephod upon him, and he girded him with the curious girdle of the ephod and bound it unto him therewith.
Right. So this is the Most High through Moses bringing Aaron to ordain him as priest. Right. And so it says Moses put on him the coat. The coat is H3801. The coat is the ketunet, and it means what? A tunic or undergarment. Right. It means to cover with a shirt, a tunic or undergarment, a robe. Right. And so the words clothed with the coat and garment used in this verse correspond or correlate to Genesis 3:21. So the Most High forgives, and he clothes you with a coat. He gives you the opportunity to what? Be priest again. And in order to be priest again, guess what? You got to go through this ritual again to get forgiven. And then you have to get cleansed and atoned for to keep doing your function. To be restored back to your rightful function. That's why Yom Kippur, Yom HaKippurim is very important. When we get back in right standing with the Father, when we become atoned for, when we become reconciled to completeness, to wholeness, restored back to our rightful position, which is being priest in the garden, being priest in the temple, because the garden is the temple, right? So Numbers 20 also, verse 28, is also provision used for dressing the priest, right? So their role, Adam, the male and female pair, human being, their role is still what? To be priest. The priest, they're there as priests because forgiveness then brings restoration. This is why Hebrews 9 verse 22 also says, without the remission or shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin. That word forgiveness there is what? Aphesis, forgive. It's the same word for shafak, which means to spill, to pour out, to shed blood. When you shed blood, you pour out yourself, because that's the life, right? That's the life. I pray to the Most High Yahweh that we can start giving life and forgive, and so we can live as the creations the Most High created us to be, right? BA, you want to say anything before I move on?
No, go right ahead, sis. Do your thing.
All right. So remember in Genesis 3 and verse 7 how it said their eyes were open, right? And remember, the Most High commanded them and said, hey, the day you eat of it, you surely shall die. They began to decay or become as dead people the day that they ate, right? So, BA, I need you to read Genesis 3, verses 24 to 22.
24 and Genesis chapter what? Say it again.
3, verses
Okay.
22 to 24. Sorry.
20, I thought you said 32. I was like, hold on. You
Oh, my
sure?
bad. I probably said it backwards, too.
It's all good. 22 and 20 to 24. And the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and to eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God set him forth from the garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man. Notice he said the man, though. Notice that.
Yeah, that's back to the anthropos. That's back to the human being.
They're
Right.
together. Exactly. They're united.
See?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how the Most High is speaking. He's the creator. So when he addresses creation, he's going to address it as he created it. The man. Ain't that so? So he drove out the man, and he placed at east of the garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
Right. So when Adam, the human being pair, right, ate of the tree, they began to die or decay. And that is something defiled or unclean or impure, which is equated to not being holy, as we see in Leviticus 21, because the Most High lays out stipulations for you to be clean, because he wants to dwell among you, so you have to be holy. You can't have anything clean or impure for the Most High to be in your midst, so he can be around, right? So remember how we equated nakedness to shame, which also was the word for unclean and impure, BA? So watch this. There is an example that being naked for Adam and Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
For being naked is also shame, which is equated to being unclean or impure.
Exactly.
So what do you have to do with that? Now, let's see. Read Deuteronomy 23 and 14, BA, real quick. Just real quick.
23 and 14. Deuteronomy 23 and 14, and it reads, for the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee. and to give up thy enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy or set apart, that he see no unclean thing in thee and turn away from thee.
All right. So the word H6172 for unclean is erva. And it also means unclean. You know, you can go to Isaiah chapter 20, verse 4. But erva means shame,
Mm,
nakedness, unclean. Right? So remember, what was unclean or impure was a shame and had to be put out of the camp, like we see for a leper who has a blemish and is decaying. Right? You have to
blemish.
put the leper outside of the camp because they have like a plague inside of them. They have like a cancer that can spread, and the leper, we know from the case for Miriam, Numbers 12. When you're doing lashon hara, when you're doing evil speech or tongue, gossiping, slandering,
Mm-hmm.
tale bearing, backbiting, that can manifest to your flesh as a leper, and so that leper has to be removed from the camp, because if you don't, that type of behavior can influence the rest of the people in the camp. So you have to remove it, right? So watch
Influence.
this. Read Leviticus chapter 13, verse 45. And we're going to see a parallel between Leviticus 13:45 and also what happened to Adam, the male and female human being pair. They had to be put out or exiled of the garden. So
45.
Leviticus.
And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip and shall cry, unclean, unclean.
All right. Pause. You tired, huh?
I'm
We
not
almost
tired, no,
done.
man. I'm good, though. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So Leviticus 13:45, it says that lepers shall be bare, right? And that word bare is that word para, uncover. The same word
Mm.
used in Numbers 5 and 18. So guess what? You're unclean, you're impure,
Exactly. You're not covered
right?
anymore.
Right, you're shame. You're shame. You're uncovered. You're naked.
The
You
Most
got
High
no
is not
protection.
covering you.
Right. You don't have no protect. You're in danger because you don't have the Most High there to cover. You don't have the Most High there to give you that power, that strength, that might to
And
walk
talk,
you through. See you through.
not talk about no damn headcloth.
Correct. No headcloth. That's not no headcloth there. Right. So the word H6168 erva, that goes back to the word H168. Ara. Ara means to be empty, destitute, discovered, uncovered. Right. So the thing is, once the lepers are put out of the camp, right? Then there's this whole process of 7 days. They have to um, do their cleansing, and then the priest has to check them for a blemish to see if the plague of leprosy has gone away, right? So they have to get clean first, and then they can come back into the camp. After they get clean, then they can get restored. Ba where? Back to the camp.
Mm.
So once Adam and Eve get clean, they can be restored. They can be restored. They can be reconciled. They can be atoned for to get where? Back in the
To
garden,
the
back in the
garden or
kingdom,
back to
back in
the
the temple.
temple. The temple. Mm. Wow.
Honor versus shame also in this aspect here. So that's the end of the lesson. Praise the Most High. All praise and honor and glory be to Yahweh for Elohim for bringing this out. I know it was long. This is about the Most High saying He established the goal or the end from the
From the
beginning.
beginning. Exactly.
This is where we have to strive to get back to. And for those of us who say we believe in Yeshua as Messiah, like me and BA do, you have the liberty to go ahead and be reconciled, restored. You have the liberty and the freedom to get back to the garden, to get back to the temple, to have proper atonement, to be the priest that he set you in the garden on the earth in the temple, in the kingdom to be.
Mm.
Go ahead. Go ahead, BA, if you want to say anything.
Nah, all I can say is praise the Most High, and all love and honor, and respect to His holy, anointed, and only known as Yeshua the Christ.
Um, this was edifying. This was a blessing. Um, this is about love. We love the Most High. And we love the Most High's people, and we want to see us get better, do better, and be better human beings. We want to get back to the biblical mandate that the Most High set forth from the garden, which is bring humanity back to the Most High as priest, so the Most High can be established as king on the throne in the temple,
Mm.
in the garden, in the earth,
Mm.
in the earth. This is not about ruling over each other. This is about being priests
Serving,
in this kingdom,
serving.
serving and keeping and guarding. So the Most High Yahweh will can be established
Mm.
as the true and living Elohim, as the true and living creator, the
Nothing
only
but straight game right there for you.
I love y'all. I love y'all with the love of the Most High. BA and I have some more videos to bring out for you. Most High willing, that we continue to piece everything together. It takes a lot to put the notes and bullet points together, and praise the Most High Yahweh for wanting to be used as a vessel, wanting to be obedient and bring this forth. Thank you so much, Eliyahu. Excuse me, Eliyah Yisrael. Blessed, praise Yah for the teaching. Yes, we appreciate you tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it while you were being edified. We hope this, continues to encourage and uplift and build you up. Right? Share this. Take this out to the people, to the nations, um, and whatever the Most High's will, be. We want to just continue to plant these seeds. And so I want to say shalom, shalom, mishpacha, wahabarim, and then give it over to BA. He had the last words, and we're going to close out, and I'll say the Aaronic priestly blessing. Go ahead, BA.
All I would like to say is that praise the Most High for putting the spirit on my sister to bring it out, and I was here to help and support and show some things that I saw as well. We just hope and pray that you take this information and critique it, pray to the Most High, and hope, and maybe there could be some more things He can show you underneath what we just brought out. You know what I'm saying? So all praise to the Most High. We're only here to help. We don't mind people disagreeing, but if you're gonna disagree, notice what we did, understand the stuff we brought out, and really critique what we brought out instead of just having a reason to fight. Just actually listen and pay attention, and we can build. We can talk about it. And with that being said, all love and appreciation and honor to the Most High in the name of His only anointed, nobody else, known as Yeshua, the only Christ. And I'm done.
Hallelujah. I do want to, before I say the Aaronic priestly blessing, I want to give out the sources that I use for this as well. Again, Dr. Dina Dye, she has 2 books in a series called The Temple and Creation. Brother Rico Cortez, Wisdom and Torah Ministries, you can go to his website and get some information from there. Also, Skip Moen, he has a book called Guardian Angel. I have that here. So it's called Guardian Angel, What You Must Know About God's Design for Women. And also GK Bill. GK Bill, the what is that? Let me see if I can get it. Well, actually, no. Let's go back here. I'm trying to get the title of the book for GK Bill. G.K. Bill. It's in my It's Scribed app, or Scribd, SCRIBD.
Oh, you're
Let
talking
me
about
get the
the professor.
Well, yeah, not the professor who's named David De Silva. Talking about G.K. Bill. Yeah. So this one is called "The Temple and the Church's Mission." The temple and the church's mission, a biblical theology of the dwelling place of God. And this is the reference material that I also accessed to get some information about the garden being the temple, um, and the beginning, the creation, where all of that culminated to be the temple. The kingdom is the temple. Um, with that being said, do the Aaronic priestly blessing. This is number 6, verses 24 to 26, and it reads, Ye barachacha Yahweh weishmeraka. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha vihuneka. Uh, may Yahweh lift up his face towards you and show you favor. Yisa Yahweh panav elecha vayasem laka shalom. That is, may Yahweh lift up his face towards you and give you shalom. All right, so I want to say shalom, shalom, mishpacha wa habarim. It's your girl 916 Sean on Facebook, Shanti Doc. Debate Talk for You, the second quarter. We'll be back when the 10th season of Debate Talk for You comes back, which is September the 23rd. All right. Y'all have a good and blessed evening. Thanks for tuning in. Commander Curse Part 2. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.